Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you guys here on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. It is October 14th, 2025, and we are live. Welcome. Come on in, have a seat. I hope you guys grab yourself a snack, or hopefully it's a healthy snack because, I know some people who are on the health kick and they might be watching, so make sure it's a healthy one. But good to see all of you guys here. Nonetheless, look, if you guys have not already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. Helps me out very much to be able to reach more people within the algorithm, because we know those of us who are telling the truth from a very humanitarian perspective, from an egalitarian perspective, we are throttled. So thank you very much for that there. If you guys would like to, you guys can also subscribe to my Substack, jaybefaunt.substack.com. Whenever I write any articles, or if I have any clips, or if I go live like this, you guys are privy to that information about a half an hour beforehand, so you guys can show up just like you did today. So thank you very much for that. Also, if you guys would like for me to react to any questions you have via video, or if you guys would like me to video react to any videos that you guys find interesting, you guys can also send that to me through QBounty at qbounty.com/Jaybefaunt. And it's a great way to support the channel as well. Well, guys, it's going to be a really great show today. One thing I do want to touch on really quick, and this happened. I found this out just a little while ago. Unfortunately, D'Angelo has passed at 51. This was part of my childhood. If anybody remembers that part in the Jamie Foxx show when he played like he was D'Angelo on his music video, that was hilarious. But D'Angelo has died at 51, so I just want to, acknowledge that. And him and Angie Stone, who is also had passed, they also had a child together. So my heart is with the family, and I just wanted to put that out there that, it's unfortunate that we lost a very talented musician and singer as well. So I just wanted to put that out there. Now, also, by the way, a warm happy birthday to the late George Floyd. Yes, it's also today's his birthday, so I wanted to make sure I put that in as well, because a lot of people will be mad, but they can be mad in the comments. But anyways, hello to everybody that's watching today. Good to see all of you here, as whenever I do have a guest, I want to be respectful of their time. So we're going to get into this. So let's take a look at the thumbnail where we're going to be talking about today. So a little bit later, we're going to be discussing about PTO to sleep. This is a story that I think a lot of people really aren't talking about too much. And I think it's absolutely important that we get into this because, this empire is crumbling and people need pay time off to sleep. But we're going to be getting a little bit deeper into that story. We're also going to be talking about Freedmen vetoed. So we're going to be talking about what's happened in the state of California for Black Americans. And this is going to be, I have my thoughts. And so this one is really interesting to get into because it has to do with higher education and Black Americans and whether or not this is an affirmative action type of bill that was proposed or not. So we're going to be getting into the details of that. But first, we're going to be talking about what ceasefire, and we're going to be having activist and advocate Blakeley on to discuss this. And this is their first intro into the channel, so thank you very much. And so we're going to be getting into that right now. We're going to be getting into this, the ceasefire that never was. So I would like to introduce Blakeley to the stage. So good to have you on the channel finally.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. Although activist is doing a lot of work, I feel like activist is a title I have not earned. I'm just a guy. I'm just the guy who talks online and goes to protests. But I don't know. I just feel like activist is like people like Afeni is an activist. You know what I mean? Like I don't want. Yeah. I feel like I haven't earned that. But anyway, yes, happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Excited to talk and hang.
Well, the whole activist thing, I'm manifesting right now.
Gotcha.
But it's so good to have you. You have been very vocal on TikTok as well as on Twitter and on other different platforms, talking not just about this, what's the 21st century Holocaust that is going on in Gaza, but also a lot of the things that we see in regards to the two-party system here in the United States. Just for a couple of minutes, I would like for you to expound on what got you so fired up about speaking about this in this space, and how did you land here?
Well, I'm sure like a lot of people could probably relate to this. Like seeing dead children does something to you, like it's like I already talked about politics, like I already talked about politics, although it wasn't like the main thing I talked about, but I did talk about it. And I was involved somewhat in politics when it comes to like domestic politics, but I think like a lot of very ignorant Americans, especially white Americans, I think that my understanding or even interest in politics stopped at our borders. Like I didn't really care or think about what happened outside of the US. And I find that then when October 7th happened and I had no idea what was really going on or what was happening, I would have called myself somebody that was like, I guess, pro-Israel by default, not because I actually really like, probably for two reasons. One, because I never saw the Palestinian perspective talked about in our media ever, like regardless of whether or not they were on the left or right, I never saw it. And so I really didn't have like a frame for people like that. And then also when it comes to like what was happening, I think that also being raised, I think that Jewish identity was used a lot. And I want to say this sensitively. I don't want to be insensitive. But I think that Jewish identity in many ways was used as a shield to protect them from any criticism that I didn't realize I was also a part of. And what I mean by that is being raised white and told about the Holocaust from a very young age. The Holocaust, it was the worst thing that ever happened in human history. You don't want to be a bigot, do you? Like, that's kind of how I was raised. Like, you don't criticize Israel. You don't criticize Jews because do you want to be an anti-Semite? You want to be a racist? Like that's kind of how I was raised. So I really believed it too. Like I really believed that like in order to be anti-racist, pro, equality, pro equity, that like low key criticizing Israel, you're kind of a Nazi. Like that was the framework that was in my head. And so I was afraid, even when I started to first look at what was happening, to even say that, for fear that it would be anti-Semitic. And I don't even just mean fear that I would be perceived that way. I mean, I feared actually being that because I don't want to be racist, right? Like, I don't want to be anti-Semitic, right? So that's bad, at least to some people. And so, like, I really struggled with that. And when people first started calling me anti-Semitic, it really upset me. Like, it really affected me. I was like, no, but I eventually had to get over it. Honestly, I had to get over it because they're not going to stop. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how many caveats you put on it. They're going to call you anti-Semitic because that is how they protect their genocidal ethno-state. And so I think that because of that frame, and I was also raised in another frame. And again, I just want to say too to anybody that sees this, when I say raised this way, I don't mean things that were explicitly said to me. I mean those things you're raised with in the background. Like I was raised there in a very Islamophobic way. No one said that to me. Like my dad and my mom never came out outright and were like, Muslims are bad. It was everywhere in the background. So you just absorb that. And I think that I was raised being told that racism was bad and that sexism was bad. But I wasn't really ever told it was bad to think of Arabs as terrorists. No one ever said that. And that was kind of the background. So it's like all of those things, the indoctrination into the Holocaust is the worst thing that ever happened ever. But I wasn't ever taught about Black Wall Street. I wasn't ever taught about King Leopold in Congo. Never got taught any of that. I didn't even know what Juneteenth was until 2020. Like, literally never learned about any of these things, but I learned about the Holocaust. And I learned about it a lot. I remember being a teenager having to read multiple books. You read Anne Frank's book. You read The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. You read Night by Elie Wiesel. Like, that was taught, right? And I was also taught that, like, so the Holocaust was the worst thing that ever happened in human history. Slavery was also really, really bad. And so was the Native American genocide. But those things were in the past, move on. Like, that was kind of the vibe. Like, those things were really bad, but that happened a long time ago. Can you get over yourself? Like, that was like the vibe. And again, never taught about all the other things that happened to Black Americans throughout the decades, and in, like, during Reconstruction and in the 1920s and in the Jim Crow era. It all was always presented to me as like, well, yeah, Black Americans and Native Americans were really oppressed, but like, when are you guys going to move on? Like, it's always like the way. And again, no one actually came out and said that, but that was the vibe, you know, that was like the background noise. So like, I grew up with all of those frames that you don't realize you have. And then when October 7th happened, my thought was, oh, all of these innocent Jews in the state that they're in to get protected from another Holocaust just got attacked by these really mean Arabs. That is so sad. Like, because they're Jews. Like, literally, that was the propaganda. So that was my reaction. And then what changed was, it wasn't a single thing. It was more like, I actually really wanted to know why. Like, after it happened, I was like, why did they attack them? Even though I had all those preconceived notions about Jews being, honestly, and I don't mean to sound racist or anything when I say this, but like, I looked at Jews as being like perma victims that like you can't really criticize, and like I feel like they're victims. So like, Whitey needs to be careful about what I say about this permanent victim class. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, and again, it's just something I didn't even realize that I thought. It was like subconscious that I thought this. And so like, it was like, I started noticing, and I was like, why did this happen? Why did they do this? Why did those people come across the border and do this? I kind of want to look into it more. So I started looking up Palestinian authors, and I just Googled like Palestinian authors. And then I started looking on TikTok, which, you know, I started looking up TikTok, looking for Palestinian creators, just like not even news outlets. Just I looked up random Palestinian creators. I asked some people in my community on TikTok, who are some Palestinian creators that you follow? I want to hear their perspectives. And then I also asked for anti-Zionist Jews. I was asking for people, like, I wanted to hear the anti-Zionist Jewish perspective. That's when I learned for the first time about Norm Finkelstein. And then somebody recommended the book, The Holocaust Industry, that Norm Finkelstein wrote. And then people told me to read the 100-Year War on Palestine, and then told me, and basically it just shattered everything I thought I believed. I try to explain it to people like when you get saved, like in the Christian church, when you get saved, it's like a huge, like, oh my gosh. And you want to, once you learn about the good news of the gospel, you know, you're supposed to tell everybody the good news. That's how I felt when I learned about Palestine. When I started learning the truth about it, I was like, OMG. And again, when I say I wanted to tell everybody, I mean everybody white like me. I knew once I started reading about it that, like, obviously Arabs already knew about it. Black people, by and large, also already knew about it and already had a long-standing solidarity with the Palestinians. So I wanted to tell other people like me, people that I know that are uneducated, that didn't go to college, that, you know, didn't have any idea what was happening. And I couldn't wait to start telling people about that and be like, oh my gosh, you guys don't understand. Everything I thought was true about Israel was a lie. And again, I really just believed the kind of like default propaganda that like Israel was a safe haven for Jews. It was created out of nowhere. It didn't disturb anybody because of the Holocaust. And if you're going after Israel, it is because you kind of want Jews to die. Like, that was like what I believed.
Well, let me ask you this. So you didn't fall for the it's all so complicated, it's too complex type of narrative? You didn't fall for that?
A little at first I did. Because what they do very successfully, and it affects people like me who I never went to school when I was growing up. I never, like, except for small, very short pockets when I was a kid, and then I would get pulled out again. I never went to college.
Mhm.
So being that kind of uneducated white trash person, when somebody looked at me and would say, you have no idea what you're talking about, this is complicated, it made me go, oh, I must not know what I'm talking about. I must not, they must be, you know, who am I? I didn't go to a fancy school. I don't even have an associate's degree. Well, I didn't even graduate from high school. What makes me think that I know, you know, the thing that the scholars don't? So at first it did kind of affect me. But then a couple weeks after, I started watching on the news and on social media, some of the people I started following, some of the clips, and this is what they don't realize. The Israeli regime doesn't realize how much damage they did to themselves, because a lot of what I first started watching that really horrified me was from them. It was like I was looking at their TikToks and watching them celebrate the water getting cut off. I was watching the deranged IOF officers dancing and laughing, and the lawmakers being like, they're animals. This is Amalek. And I know what that means because I was raised Christian. And so when I saw the way they were talking about them, I was like,
Yeah.
I don't have to be an expert in Middle East politics to know that's fucking deranged. Like, that's fucking deranged. So, like, they really did damage to their own cause by being so openly genocidal to begin with. And then, so that was part of it. And then the other thing that kind of ripped down that, oh, it's complicated, was like starting to see them fucking kill them. Like, starting to see them bomb them. I was like, okay, that's not complicated. You're attacking children. There's nothing complicated. I don't give a fuck about 3,000 years. It was promised to me. Whatever the hell you tell me, I don't understand. It's a religious conflict. You know what I understand? You're bombing children. I don't need to have a PhD to understand that that's fucking psychotic.
Absolutely. And thank you very much for that, because a lot of us have to come to terms with, I think part of it comes with humility, is that sometimes it's okay to say, I just don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not aware. I started to become privy to the whole issue regarding Israel and Palestine more in an honest and objective way when I moved further to the left back in 2021. And as I started to learn more, I was just like, so it's not complicated.
Right.
And then, given the background that I have as a Black American, and that what I've seen happen to Native Americans in this country, it's a one-to-one. It's, you guys are repeating the exact same thing that you guys did to the Native Americans back then. This isn't any different. Because when they're calling Palestinians the children of the darkness, then guess what? How is that different than white colonizers calling the Native Americans savages? It's not much difference. There's not much involved there.
And they have the same lies that they kind of, once you learn, you get used to their lies, you start to realize it. Like, when I remember, like, a little early on, getting attacked by a bunch of Zionists online because I compared it to the Native American genocide here. And they were like, how dare you? Israelis were always there. It's not the same, and blah, blah, blah. Also, it's not the same because, like, we went through the Holocaust and you guys were just white colonizers that came here. It's so different. I was like, okay, but is it really that different, though? Like, is it really that different when you actually look back at it? Like, but again, that's how they use their identity as a shield. Because then they would say to me, well, what do you know? You're a white American. You're not indigenous to the Middle East like we are, because God promised it to us 3,000 whatever. And like, at first, again, like, there were a lot of things at first that they did that did work on me to like be like, to make me question myself. Oh, like, what do I know? Like, well, how could I say that? Because, I am white. So who am I to tell a Jewish person that they're not indigenous to Palestine? But then there's also like facts. Okay. Then there's like facts. Like, and I'm so sorry. Like, it comes to a point where you don't get to hide behind your identity to murder people. And you don't get to hide behind your historical oppression, to genocide people. You don't get to do that. And it just got to a point where I got fresh out of patience for that, where I was like, oh, okay, like, you don't get to just like genocide people and steal their shit and then turn around and go, yeah, but I'm a minority.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of people have to contend with this, especially when it comes to people like Barack Obama, Kamala Harris. I was going to say Clarence Thomas, but I'm not talking about him. People like James Clyburn, Cory Booker, Jasmine Crockett. It's like, oh man, I can't critique them because they're black, and then they'll use the race card on me. And I've seen this many, many times where they'll use it. And the thing is, like, while racism and anti-blackness is a real thing, and it is something that we have to contend with this in this country, there are also, at the same time, some black people who will use their identity to continue the empire. And we have a particular word for those in the black community. And it basically is the formal word for trash panda. So with that being said, we have our words for them.
Oh, the C word.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, like, the reason why we have a disdain for that, and it's on both the Democrat side and the Republican side. They exist in both parties. And the problem is that it's wanting to continue the empire. It's the same thing with, and you have that in every race. With Jewish people, you have Jewish people who are anti-Zionist that really practice real loving Judaism that actually wants to unite people. And those people who are Jewish, they are really the exemplifiers of what real Judaism is. And then you have the supremacists. Right. And the supremacists, well, they're using their religion. They're adulterating their religion, just like many Christians do, because I was raised evangelical. Don't come for me. So they will use their religion in order to use it to beat people over the head with it so that they can maintain power over others. Right?
100%. And the danger that we run into when it comes to what's happening in Gaza, for me anyway, is that Jewish supremacy is not something that is widely acknowledged. Like, for me, it took me a long time to be able to use that word without feeling like I was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
White supremacy is something that I can easily talk about with no pushback. But when you say Jewish supremacy, there is a lot of people that want to acknowledge that it doesn't exist. And because Judaism has been wrapped up in Jewish identity and what is happening in Gaza, or the historical oppression of Jewish people, there are many that will not acknowledge that Jewish supremacy even exists, and that you even bringing that up makes you an anti-Semite. So that makes it, that's like another layer of how they control criticism.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, two things can be true at the same time. Anti-Semitism is real, but also Jewish supremacy exists.
Right. 100%.
And this is the nuance, right? The nuance that some people just, they don't want to think about it because they want to think in a black and white as like good guy, bad guy. When in reality, it's like, you know, it's more bimodal. And so there's spectrums, you know, you have people who, like, for instance, most Zionists aren't even Jewish. They're Christian.
Right. They're Christian, yes. And if you grew up like we did, Christian evangelical, you know that there is a huge evangelical Christian Zionist community. And like you said, like, it is, there's a lot of gray. But the thing is that people choose, they don't decide what is in the gray area when they treat things as black and white. They treat it like a team. Rather than looking at it like these are the facts, they treat it like a team. And what I mean by that is, yes, of course, like, I've gotten so much hate anytime I criticize Kamala Harris, anytime I criticize Cory Booker. You know, it all of the same kind of attacks and hate, and you're anti-black, and it's misogynoir, and you can't criticize them, and how dare you, cracker, and all that. And that's fine. But what I do find interesting about those criticisms that I get is that if I criticize Candace Owens or Clarence Thomas, I get no such pushback. They fully understand that Clarence Thomas and Candace Owens can be problematic in helping the empire. But God forbid you say that about Cory Booker, who's like such a hack, and all of a sudden you're a Klansman. It's amazing.
So I'm going to give you an answer for that. That has less to do with them being black and more of them being Democrats.
No.
And a lot of these people, they equate Democrat with black.
Oh, no.
It's not so.
Let me make sure I correct that so you don't think or your audience doesn't think I'm saying it's just black people. It's not just black people that have that reaction. It's all people.
No. I understand. There are white liberals that do the same thing.
Yes.
Like if you criticize someone that's black who is on the Democrat side, you'll have white liberals that will go, "Oh my God, you're being anti-black or you're being racist," and it's like, I had made no comment about their race whatsoever, and in fact, they aren't even doing enough for black people by what black people say.
Right. Okay.
And so,
and the double standard. Okay. So this reminds me, like, the people that are attacking right now, this creator named Consciously, who's a really great creator. He's on YouTube. He's on TikTok. He has been coming under relentless attack by Blue MAGA for them claiming. His name is Consciously. He goes by Consciously. His name is
Consciously. Yeah.
Yes. He's been coming under constant attack by Blue MAGA. They're attacking him. They're lying about him. They're claiming that he encouraged people not to vote for Kamala. Like, all of this insanity. And one of the newest lines that they're coming after him with is to say, "You're not even married to a black woman. You're not even married to a black woman," because his wife, I think, might be part Latino or something. And what I find amazing is those same people will talk about how Kamala is the greatest thing that ever happened, ignoring the fact that she's married to a white Zionist. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Like, I don't understand.
Those are trolls and clowns, because your marriage to a particular person of a particular race does not negate your fight for black liberation.
Of course.
The problem is that they're trying to find whatever they can and throw whatever spaghetti at the wall to see if it sticks. It's the exact same thing, and we'll be getting into this as the Palestinian journalist that was murdered. And people are like, "Oh my God, but it was Palestinians that killed him." And I'm like, didn't we just talk about people of the same identity as you that will be turncoats, and they will actually work for the oppressor in order to advance their agenda? It happens in the black community. It happens in the white community, because there are white people who are fighting for their rights as well to exist. And then you got some white people that will hold down other white people. Look at what happened in the Battle of Blair Mountain, right? Where a whole bunch of white people, a lot of coal miners, were trying to fight for them to actually have real tangible benefits as far as the unions and the pay and worker power. And then you have some people turn on them. And so ultimately, it is about having turncoats within your own community. It happens in the Latino community. It happens in the LGBTQ community. Hello. All right. Some of them anti-trans, anti-queer bigots that want to talk about, "Oh my goodness, LGB without the T." Sit your queer ass down and let us do the work that we've been doing for years, because you obviously don't give a damn about the people who you actually have closer identity with. Instead of being one of us, you want to be a Peter Thiel or what's his name, Cook of Apple. You guys want to be one of them.
Tim Apple. Yeah, Tim Cook.
You know what I'm saying? They want to be like them, and you're never going to be one of them. Ever.
Right.
And then they get mad at us for standing with Palestinians, like, "Oh, the Palestinians will throw you guys off the roof." You know what? So with the people of Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah. I know. I love that the same people that will be actively advocating right now for undoing marriage equality and trashing queer people all the time and calling us groomers will then turn around and go, "There's not even LGBTQ rights in Palestine." It's like, you don't want them here, bitch. Like, if it were up to you, we'd be illegalized. Okay? Michael Knowles getting on stage saying that trans people need to be eradicated. And then they'll turn around and go, "Well, they throw you off a roof in Gaza." It's
every accusation is a confession.
Yes, always.
Yeah,
always.
So I want to get into this because Look, I knew this conversation was going to be good. I didn't realize it was going to be this good, but I really want to get into what people were looking at. There was actually a conversation on Piers Morgan that they were actually discussing about the Gaza ceasefire that happened, that was facilitated by Trump. One of the first things I want to do is I want to show Palestinians thanking Trump for this. Let's just go over this really quick, and then we'll go into the Piers Morgan video.
I love this video. I saw this.
Trump for the ceasefire. Let's thank him in the right way. Thank you for giving the IDF billions of dollars to define themselves from our children. Thank you for using the veto not once, 10 times to make sure the bombs falling for us. Veto. Thank you for sending smart muscle. It's so smart. Always find their way to our children. Thank you for calling it self-defense. I didn't know defense mean bombing school and hospitals. And thank you for your silence. It's so louder than any exploitation we hear.
I actually felt bad at first laughing at this because it's so dark. And also I love that the Palestinians have such a great sense of humor. Like I feel such a kinship with them. I love that video. I love it. Like I feel, like I said, a little bit bad laughing at it because it's so dark and he's in the ruins of Gaza. But it was also so funny because it was so on point.
Yeah.
Like, thank you for what, bitch?
Yeah. And yeah, that's just why I think it's absolutely imperative that we keep talking about it. And that's one thing I appreciate. And one of the things you notice about people who especially go through a lot of atrocity and hard times, they tend to be the funniest, right? And true. So Palestinians, man, I mean, the sense of humor is great. I just wish that it didn't have to come at the cost of them going through this Holocaust that's been going on for literally over 70 years.
Yeah.
I just wish it didn't come at that cost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've always said the same thing about like so many, especially lower class Black people that I've known. Like some of the most like working class, lower class Black people that I've known have been some of the funniest because they have such a wonderful sense of humor with the shit that they've been through that they're just funnier than like people who haven't been through things.
Yeah. I mean, I want to be unfunny and boring and stuffy too. Damn it.
I want to be lame. Look, I'm wearing a tie. Please let me.
Yeah. You know, I don't want to be looking all formal.
It's so funny that you say that too, because when I'm like talking, when people get mad that like we'll be talking about this kind of stuff, I'm like, do you think that I didn't just want to have my content be like get readies with me and my desire to have plastic surgery? You think that's what I didn't want? I didn't want to just live my life this way. No, you guys are forcing our hands by making life so unbearable. Like,
look, fam, ooh, we can talk about that all. Look, I'm gonna have to have you back on for a 3-hour stream because we can talk about that all day.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into this. All right, so we're gonna pass through the intro and we're gonna get straight into it. All right, let's go.
I was watching it all from early this morning in London. And I've got to say, I felt a sense of great relief and joy at watching the hostages freed and reunited with their families. Incredibly moving scenes there. Joy for the Palestinian people, the innocent Palestinian people caught up in 2 years of hellish war. And of course, the release of several thousand Palestinians from Israeli prisons as well. You know, overall, the feeling today was extremely joyous, and I would argue hopeful. What's your thought?
Cautious, very cautious optimism, especially given some of the statements that we've heard from the Israelis over the weekend. You know, Benjamin Netanyahu gave a speech to the Americans that made it appear as though he believed in the ceasefire and was going to follow through with it. Remember, they've only agreed to the first stage of the ceasefire, and the rest of it is still incredibly murky. But then on Israeli television, he spoke in Hebrew and talked about how the military operation isn't over yet. Then you have Israel Katz talking about how as soon as we secure the release of all the hostages, we're going to go back in and destroy the tunnels. So there are some signs that make me a little uneasy. But I will say this. I was happy to see the hostages released. The videos of them reunited with their family members are incredibly moving. The innocent Palestinians you're referring to, though, are going home to raised communities, raised neighborhoods. They have no home to go back to. So I'm concerned about them and their well-being. That being said, it does appear that there's some humanitarian aid being allowed into the Gaza Strip. It remains to be seen if it's enough in order to help people who have been intentionally starved for months.
Do you give Donald Trump full credit for making this happen?
Well, no, I don't, because this is the same ceasefire that could have been agreed upon over a year ago, and it wasn't. So the real question is, what changed? Why did Donald Trump, basically put his foot down finally after tens of thousands of innocent people were killed, after, obviously there was the ground invasion in Gaza City, which has also been leveled. It's laughable to hear him talk about deserving a Nobel Peace Prize as he's ramping up a war with Venezuela under false pretenses. So, look, I'm not going to give Trump credit because, again, he could have done this a year ago, or at the beginning of his administration, I should say, and he refused to do it. By the way, the same for Biden. It's the same ceasefire agreement that Biden rejected that we're now learning, thanks to reporting from Israel, by the way. So it is what it is.
All right, Shavel.
So I just want to get your thoughts on what Anna Kasparian said in regards to her hope for the ceasefire. That I think this was the day of the ceasefire, and so that's probably when this was this was recorded. So what are your thoughts?
That she's right. That is bullshit. I mean, they're already doing it. I don't know if you saw today that all the usual suspect trash bags in Zionist media are already pumping out story after story claiming that Hamas broke the ceasefire. That, Hamas said they were going to lay down their arms and they're already violating the ceasefire. No, they didn't. They never said they were going to lay down their arms. That was not a part of the ceasefire. It was not a part of the phase 1 ceasefire. Trump even said it. Trump even said, as they're spreading all this propaganda saying look at Hamas is executing Palestinians now. Where's the ceasefire now, people? Trump even said, yeah, we knew that they were going to go after some of the turncoat people, and we're going to let it happen because we don't want chaos to ensue in the Strip. He said something to that effect in a tweet where he was asked about it on Air Force One, right? And so they're lying about it. But that's not stopping the New York Post and all the other $7,000 Club Zionist influencers from getting online and lying and fixing their fucking faces to go, they already broke the ceasefire. They're manufacturing consent in real time right now to go back into Gaza. They're doing what they always do. They're lying. They're saying that Hamas broke the ceasefire. They're talking about we need to get rid of the tunnels now. And they're going to use this lie that they're now pushing in all of our Zionist media to go back into Gaza and to continually break the ceasefire, just like they lied about the journalist Salah al-Jafawari, just like they lied about him. He was just killed by random Palestinians. No, that's not what happened. But that's not going to stop all of them from lying. And we're not going to get any accountability because, again, our media is so embarrassing and so trash and so Zionist controlled that they're not going to correct it. They're not going to say shit. It's like, how I said one of those things that you don't notice until you notice it. I never noticed how, I guess because I was raised the same way, how fucking Islamophobic our media is. The way that they just casually lie about the Palestinians, like it ain't no thing. And it's they're just lying about the ceasefire, lying about, he's Hamas, they're Hamas. And they just lie and lie and lie and lie. And it's that's the first thing I saw when I got on Twitter today. They're already manufacturing consent in Western media so that when they start bombing Gaza again, they can go, yeah, but it was Hamas that broke the ceasefire. What do you want Israel to do? They've got to defend themselves. It's actually
You know,
sick.
yeah. You know what's funny? To the uneducated about this subject, they would think that the only Palestinians that are in the region that are fighting against Israel is Hamas. Whereas they're erasing the other 16 different groups that are also fighting as Palestinian resistance, one of them being the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the PFLP. Whereas Hamas is a more Islamic or Muslim group that is fighting for Palestinian liberation. The PFLP is actually a Marxist-Leninist group that's actually secular. It's secular, and they're fighting against what Israel's doing as far as occupation. So just out on its face, whenever they keep going Hamas, 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 they don't talk about the other groups as well. So they leave them out. On top of it, here's the thing. As far as this agreement is concerned, if I'm fighting, which is legal under international law, against occupation, and we come to an agreement, why the hell would I lay down my arms when we are literally a paramilitary force fighting a nuclear superpower that is occupying us and putting us under apartheid? Why the hell would I agree to lay down my arms? What do you think that the Palestinians are stupid?
Right. And that just goes again back to the racism, the Islamophobia, the white supremacy, because would you ever if I try to explain that to an American in a white context, give me your guns. What do you think they would say? That's how I try to explain it to people who don't That's how I try to explain it to people who don't understand. Let me tell you, as a white person, John in San Antonio, that you need to give your guns to the government, even though they're not even violating any of your rights. We're just going to say we're going to give them to you. How do you think John in San Antonio would respond to being told he needs to?
What did Charlton Heston say? Out of my cold, dead hands.
Right. So you wouldn't expect, and you wouldn't find it acceptable for the government to come tread on you and take your guns, just like you wouldn't accept a bunch of random people coming in and just taking your house from you like they do to the people in the occupied West Bank. So I said to somebody I was arguing with once, just pretend they're white for a moment. Pretend that they're white, and then imagine the government going and telling them to do that, and then see how much you like it. Because that's really what it comes down to. You're stupid on purpose, because if you were to imagine that they were white, then you wouldn't have a hard time understanding that why the fuck would they lay down their arms to a nuclear superpower? Be fucking serious. Not only that, but I'm so sorry. Every accusation being a confession, why is the Israeli regime allegedly scared of these people who have no house? They've got no fucking weapons. They have no military. You have weapons. You have a military. You're backed by the United States. You have nuclear weapons, and you're mixed scared? I don't think so. This is ridiculous. You're not scared of them. Like, it is so actually absurd. And the reason why they don't ever want to talk about any of the secular groups in Gaza is because they understand, being so Islamophobic themselves and the indoctrination into Islamophobia that we have in the West, it sounds a lot scarier if you say that they're Muslims than it does if you just say they're secular Palestinians. Like, people will still be racist against them, but it doesn't have that extra of scary Muslim if you don't add in Hamas.
You know what? This is a really good point that Sean Miller brought out. He said, isn't Hamas actually is al-Din al-Qassam brigades? Yes, that is the military wing of Hamas. Hamas also has a political wing. Just like you have the Democrats and Republicans, Hamas is actually a political party.
Right. And the governing body of Gaza up until this point that they were negotiating with, and that Israel bombed the negotiators.
Yeah. Out in Doha in Qatar. In Qatar. I'm sorry.
I think it is. I've been corrected when I said Qatar, and people were like, no, it's Qatar. I'm like, I honestly don't know, because I've heard it both ways, and I don't know which is like the right way to say it. But I've heard both. So
semantics here.
Yeah.
I've heard Arabs pronounce it Qatar. That's how I hear them pronounce it. And so The only reason why I pronounce it the American way is because I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to be snooty. You know what I mean?
No.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's Qatar.
I would
Qatar?
say Qatar, or I would say Qatar.
Yeah, I think it's like it's pronounced like Cutter. I think it's pronounced that way, but
that's what I thought. But then I got corrected, and people were like, "It's not Qatar, it's Qatar." But you know what's so funny about you saying that, bro, is that I literally that is me. That is me. When I try to pronounce things, I try to pronounce it the correct way, but I always still say it in an American accent because I never want to come across as one of those douchebags. That's like, oh, we're gonna go to France, and then we're gonna get a croissant. It's like, okay, well, I'm American, so I'm not going to say it like that because I don't want to sound like a douche, but I also want to try to pronounce it the correct way, but like in an American accent. Because to me, it's like, where do you draw the line between like, you want to pronounce it the right way and you want to respect people's cultures? Where do you veer from that and then into cultural appropriation and douchebaggery? Like, it's like trying to, like, I don't know.
I think it depends on the inflection. If you're just trying to get the pronunciation correct, the people of that culture will understand you're trying to get it correct. If I said, oh, it's in Qatar, then people will be like, what do you mean by that? Right? But if I pronounce it correctly, you know, with just a normal speaking tone without having any particular inflections, then they'll go, oh, okay, yeah. He's trying to say it correctly while honoring our culture. I think that's the point. So it's just like, for instance, and I know we're diverging a little bit, but we'll get back to it. But there was a lady who drove me to dialysis through the paratransit, and she's like, and I was like, well, what's your name? She said, well, my name is Dwaynia, but everybody calls me D. Because within the Black culture, a lot of names that are made and given to us, a lot of people, particularly a lot of white people, are like, oh, well, I can't pronounce that. Can we just call you something shorter? I take it as, no, I'm not going to pronounce it the shortened form. I'm going to honor your name by learning how to pronounce it correctly. Because if I can say Schwarzenegger, or if I can say Chalamet, I can say Dwaynia. I can say Quantavious. I can say these words.
That's the thing. It's about what I mean when I say pronounce it. I mean, I don't want to do it with the accent. Like, I wouldn't say Schwarzenegger trying to have like an Austrian accent, but I'll try to say it correctly. Like, first of all, I'm all about always trying to make sure I pronounce people's names right. I've always felt that way because my sisters have very strange names that are hard for people to pronounce, and it would always bug me when they would pronounce my sister's name wrong, and my sister wouldn't correct them because she didn't feel like dealing with it. So like, she just wouldn't bother correcting them. That always bugged me. I always try to pronounce people's names correctly. I just don't add the accent because I feel like adding the accent. Like, somebody actually said, well, why aren't you saying France? Well, because I'm American. I'm not going to call it France or croissant when I'm American. It just sounds cringe. But when it comes to a name, I will always try to pronounce people's names correctly. But I like without an accent, because to me, the accent makes it like, I'm not going to be like, Timothy Chalamet. I'm going to try to say Charlemagne correctly, but I'm not going to add an accent.
That's fair. That's fair. So let's continue.
Sorry, I know I got derailed, but I just go on.
It's all good. It's all good. All right, let's continue. Let's hear what this gentleman has to say.
Kesterman, I mean, I give Trump enormous credit here. I think he's done something which I don't think any other American president at this moment could have done. He's brought Netanyahu.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, oh my gosh, I can't with the ass kissing from Piers Morgan. He is always kissing Trump's ass. Yeah, but don't you need to give Trump a lot of credit? He's done something no one has ever done before. It's like, put your tongue back in your mouth, bro. It's embarrassing.
Also, he's saying, I've never seen a president actually do this in recent memory. And I'm just like, are you forgetting Ronald Reagan when he actually called to force a ceasefire?
Right. Like,
Ronald Reagan did.
it's not only not true, but he does this all the time where he's constantly pressing his guests to give Trump credit and kiss Trump's ass. It's like, you're embarrassing, Piers, but do you condemn Hamas Morgan? Because you're supposed to be a journalist, okay? Like, embarrassing.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
All right, let me see here. All right, we'll go back just a couple of seconds and then we'll continue.
Done something which I don't think any other American president at this moment could have done. He's brought Netanyahu to heel. I think the catalyst for it actually was the incredibly ill-advised attack by Israel on Doha when they tried to take out the Hamas negotiators, which was a failed mission. They didn't kill the negotiators. They killed a member of the Qatari security forces. They killed some other people who were totally unconnected with Hamas. A complete debacle. And when I read that Donald Trump had made Netanyahu literally get on the phone and apologize to the Prime Minister of Qatar for that, I thought, wow, things have changed. And, sure enough, here we are, not long after that catastrophic error of judgment by Netanyahu, with him seemingly brought to heel. And I think that is what's happened.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate characterization. First of all, it's good to see you. It's been a while. I miss getting yelled at 7 a.m, so good to be back. The fact that Donald Trump did not receive the Nobel Peace Prize is a damning indictment on the state of the Nobel Peace Committee, but I digress. You're absolutely right. Amit Segal was the one who said that the strike in Doha is the most successful failed assassination attempt. I would agree with you. It was ill-advised, but inadvertently, it actually brought Hamas to the negotiating table, because one of the differences between the ceasefire now and the ceasefire of a year ago is, for the first time, Hamas was pressured by Qatar, who's hosting them, by Egypt, by Syria, by Turkey. That is not the status quo of a year ago. That is a direct result of peace through strength. As President Teddy Roosevelt said, you talk softly, but you carry a big stick. So while it is true Israel was trying to negotiate with Hamas for the better part of 2 years, it is also true that they had a really good incentive, Hamas, that is, for negotiating, meaning they will no longer be accustomed to living in the Four Seasons in Doha, and they will be forced to be given a negotiation. And I think this is what all the far left, this is what the campus activists, this is what the cultural elites have been saying for 2 years. We need a ceasefire now. We need to end the war. This is literally what happened. And it's quite a testament to the fact that they are not celebrating in the streets, which I think underscores it was never about a ceasefire or peace. It was always about the actual genocide against the Jewish state, which occurred on October 7th. If it wasn't about that, then how come all these peace-loving activists aren't encouraging Hamas to surrender immediately? I kind of agree with Anna. This deal could have been done on October 8th had Hamas simply surrendered and released the hostages. Unfortunately, through human agency, they decided not to.
Yeah, General.
Before Anna hands him his ass, I would like for you to respond to this, because please.
Yeah, this guy is such a fucking clown. Like, the way that they just lie, so like about everything, like the way they just so casually lie. What do you mean? He goes, oh, they offered to have a ceasefire on October 8th if they would have just handed the hostages back. Hamas did offer to hand the hostages back on October 8th. They said, we will give you all your hostages back if you don't invade Gaza. And they said, kick fucking rocks. We don't care. We're going to go and invade Gaza anyway. So that is just a lie. That is just a lie. And then also, he lied about saying, oh, no, this was because Doha finally pressured Hamas. No, this was because Doha finally pressured Trump. That's what it was. Being like, oh my gosh. Like, and Trump actually cares about Qatar and the having a good relationship with them. And so that is actually what happened. Also, what do you mean brought Netanyahu to heel? Netanyahu wasn't brought to heel. Trump was. That's why Trump is standing up in the Knesset, kissing their asses, talking about, oh, Miriam Adelson, you and your husband came in and lobbied me and I gave you everything you wanted after you gave me money. And they're standing there giving him a standing ovation. And also him saying the thing about the Peace Prize. This is a joke. Also, like, the Peace Prize, like the Presidential Medal of Freedom, doesn't really have any meaning anymore. Like, the fact that terrorist Daniela Weiss got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, be serious. Like, and Trump is trying to start a war with Venezuela. So all of it's a lie. Also, the last thing I want to trash that guy for saying is, words do have meanings. You don't just throw the word genocide on October 7th. Are you kidding me? The Palestinians do not have the capacity. They don't have the power to have tried to genocide anybody, okay? The idea that the October 7th attack That's what it was. It was an attack. It was a breakout of the concentration camp and an attack, a military attack, or attack on their military. They don't even have an operational military. The idea that that was somehow an attempted genocide is a joke. It makes a mockery of the term genocide. Genocide is what the Israelis have done to the Palestinians. But of course, nobody corrects him. They just let him spew that garbage unabated. It's just like, that guy is an absolute fucking clown. It's amazing how you can look so dorky and unassuming and be like a genocidal terrorist lover. Like this insane hack, Cast Bomb, or whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's continue on.
Like, look at him. He looks like a giant
from
dwarf.
a military perspective.
I'm not. Look, I'm not going to get. I told myself I'm going to try to be good. Blakeley, fam, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to be. I'm trying. I'm really trying. Blakeley, look, hang on. Hold on. I want you to take me seriously. Look at some of my eyeballs. I'm trying to be good right now.
I'm sorry. I was trying to. I'm sorry. I was trying to drag you down to my level.
All right, let's continue.
Okay.
Perspective. It seemed to me that the Doha attack backfired spectacularly for Israel, and it also enraged all the leaders of neighboring Arab countries. And I think they were all on the phone to President Trump and telling him this has crossed a line. And at that point, Trump, I think, got very serious with Netanyahu. I mean, listen, I might be wrong. It's just my gut feeling. Got on the phone to Netanyahu and said, enough. This has to end. What is your...
That was the line? You mean the estimated over 680,000 Palestinians being massacred in a 21st century Holocaust? That wasn't the line, but a missile hitting a few Qatari people in Doha, that was the line?
And he says it like it's normal. No outrage. And also he concedes that Trump could have called Netanyahu 10 months ago. Like, it's insane. I know. It's insane.
Look, I usually don't drink alcohol, but right now I wish I had some liquor in this water bottle. I'm telling you. Ooh, these people.
I know. It's insane.
All right, let's continue.
Your reading of why things have come to a head seemingly so quickly after that attack?
Well, I think Shabbos was right. In many ways, it was the most successful failed attempt around. But the fact still remains that they did get on the phone. They did call Trump. Trump also turned to them and said, okay, if you want Netanyahu to knock this off, then you guys have got to be part of this process. And if you don't want Israel attacking Hamas wherever they are, in Doha or Turkey or some of the Muslim Brotherhood organizations in Egypt, you need to get on the bandwagon. You need to start pressuring Hamas. So he's right. This was the most successful, unsuccessful attack, because I think what it did, it not only pressured Israel, but it also pressured the Arab leaders to start clamping down on Hamas and get them to the negotiating table.
Hang on. As far as this whole, like, oh, well, all these Arab leaders, they are going to be pressuring them. Are we really going to take our cues from Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, now they're pressuring them.
Like, no, because here's the thing. Saudi Arabia looks out for Saudi Arabia.
Right.
They don't look out for other people. At least not in a real material way. Not like Iran looks out for Palestinians. Not like Yemen looks out for Palestinians. Not like the Lebanese and with Hezbollah that look out for Palestinians. No. The rest of these Arab leaders have actually turned their back on Palestinians for the sake of wanting to still deal with the United States and Israel because honestly, they're too scared to actually fight for real liberation.
Right. Or they're corrupt, which is why I don't take it seriously when they're like, oh, look, they're working together. They're going to sign a peace deal in Egypt. It's like, you mean Egypt? That's the second highest funding of foreign states that we give money to is Egypt. Egypt and their corrupt ass leader. Really? That's who you want us to think? Like, they're acting like it's neutral. They're acting like there's some neutral arbiter here when the U.S. is basically like Israel's mafia lawyer. And then the other people are just going along for the ride to ensure that they don't get hurt.
Yeah. Like, for instance, this was a great point by Joey Peltier, friend of the channel. He says the Saudis could end all of this by which upholds the U.S. petrodollar. I'm just saying. Boom! Right there.
Yeah.
Saudis could stop this today.
Did you see this actually reminds me of that Washington Post leak. Did you see that article that came up from the Washington Post that said that it was leaked that private communications between the US and Israel and Arab leaders that were actually like all having conversations amongst themselves, working together while pretending to be standing up for the Palestinians? Like, that was something I actually had to learn over time that really bummed me out, was thinking that like all the Arab states were going to be on the side of the Palestinians when really a lot of them don't fucking care either.
This is what happens when you have puppets as leaders. This is what happened in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
You have many, like, for instance, look what's going on in Rwanda. Look what's going on in Kenya right now. You have William Ruto is basically a puppet of the United States, Canada, and France, and he is leading Kenyan soldiers to try to take over Haiti right now. And so there's all the it's what they do is that they put in their puppets so that they can be able to have access to those resources. And this is ultimately what they want to do with Palestine. Like, if they can't completely eliminate Palestinians out of the region, then they're going to try to get puppets in there to allow them to extract the resources in that way. But they can't do it if there's Palestinian resistance leading things. And this is why they want to get rid of not just Hamas, but also all the other Palestinian resistance forces.
Yeah. They want it's like what you were saying about what they did to Haiti. They basically go in there, they trash the place, murder a bunch of people, destabilize it. Then when there's issues and people that rise up and there's that destabilization, they turn around and go, why can't Haiti govern themselves? Why can't they get their shit together? It's like, oh, I don't know. Probably because you keep going in there and killing their leaders and installing puppets and creating chaos. And then you turn around and go, it reminds me of that Breaking Points thing where that idiot racist Matt Walsh was like, why can't Haiti get their shit together? And Ryan Grimm was like, have you paid attention to what has happened in Haiti over the last 50 years? Like, and you're right. That is exactly what they were trying to do to Palestine. It's insane. But then they turn around and they victim blame and go, why can't they get their shit together? Look at the chaos in Haiti.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. The chaos that's happening continuously in all these different states that really the United States actually has its hands in.
Yeah, Syria. And then now all of a sudden the US, which were very concerned about terrorism, is now besties with somebody that was like used to be in Al Qaeda. It's amazing. It's amazing.
It doesn't make any sense. So let's continue on here.
Everybody seems to agree, General Kimmett, that Hamas will have no role in any government going forward. Where there is a serious point of disagreement is over whether Hamas disarms. This has been part of the Trump plan, the 21-point plan, but Hamas has said they're not intending to disarm. The ideology that fuels Hamas is still clearly there in a number of people. Hamas have clearly not been completely destroyed. We know that because they're still operating. What happens now? I mean, how likely is it that Hamas will disarm?
Well, it's even worse than that right now. The fact remains that their spokesmen are saying that Hamas will not disarm, and in fact will be the core of any future Palestinian army. In fact, what we're saying is that whatever organization takes over inside of Gaza, whatever form of government, whether it's the PLO or some other organization, they will be the militia that defends them. And any notion of Hamas somehow taking off their Hamas uniforms and putting on police uniforms is just a recipe for failure.
So what?
Hang on. So you mean to tell me that the group that is literally kicking the ass of the IOF and a tracksuit and sandals, they are the ones that are beating that? Because look, whenever the Israelis have to do on the ground assaults, they get their asses handed to them. This is why they're always bombing.
Yes.
You mean to tell me that these guys who have all this resilience and they're actually fighting for the people of Palestine, and especially in Gaza, you wouldn't want them to stay in their post and protecting the Palestinian people if there was ever a two-state solution? Because when a two-state solution, a lot of people don't realize this, it involves also Palestine having a formal army, a formal military force. So let's be real. Anybody who talks about a two-state solution who is a Zionist, they don't actually believe in a two-state solution. Because if a two-state solution actually happened, that means that Palestine will actually have their own formal army as well, which means Israel cannot advance any further whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And on top of it, it will stop the Greater Israel Project, which Benjamin Netanyahu has been trying to expand for years.
Right.
So ultimately, it was never about actually having peace in the region. Peace just means quiet for white supremacists and Zionists. That's all it means. They want you to die quietly. And that's basically what it is.
Right. Oh, that's something I forgot to mention in that guy's annoying response, that Shabos guy. And you hear Zionists a lot of times say it. What happened to all the peace activists? I thought they were all peace activists. I'm like, you guys are outdated as fuck. This isn't the 90s. No one ever called ourselves people who advocate for Palestine peace activists. I don't want peace in the way that white Westerners mean it. We want justice. That is not the same thing, brah.
Look, like Kwame Ture said, he said, peace is the white man's word. We want liberation.
Right. And that is what they mean when they say peace. Like what you said a minute ago. They mean shut up and die quietly.
I'm gonna share this because since a lot of these people, especially the liberals, they like to use this particular phrase and say, oh, we want peace. I think that we should defer to what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said. He said, true peace is not merely in the absence of tension. It is in the presence of what? Justice.
Exactly.
And what is justice? Wouldn't justice mean repair, bringing things back to the way they were before the damage was done? That being said, then what real peace means, it is bringing the borders of Palestine back to pre-1948 levels.
Yes.
I didn't say 1967. I said pre-1948 because ultimately that's when the disaster started. Because when the theft started, when the theft happened, that's the injustice. So therefore, if you want to restore justice, you have to give back to what was taken or stolen from the Palestinian people. That means the homes, the land, the borders, all of it.
But what's
people
so
are trying to negotiate. Like, how in the hell am I going to allow you to come into my house and steal my stuff, and then I negotiate with you to give back some of my stuff while you get to keep the rest?
But what's so crazy about, I know, it's so crazy, but what's even crazier is that Palestinians, including Hamas, have actually said, fine, we'll agree to 1967 borders. But that's never enough for them because
no, it's not.
Because every accusation is a confession and they never wanted a two-state solution. They never wanted peace. They never wanted the 1967 borders. They want more and more and more and more and more. They want all of it. They want the beaches of Gaza. They want all of it. It's never enough for them. It is a constant expansion. So they lie when they say like, oh, we just want peace. You know, it's like, no, you guys are the ones that put in your fucking Likud charter that you want from the river to the sea. So even the concessions that the Palestinians were willing to make, they're like, no, not good enough.
They're really making major concessions just so that those people won't starve and die.
Yeah.
And Israel is dangling that in front of their faces and going, oh, well, if you guys really want, you know, this peace, then you guys got to agree to this. But then guess what? They agree to it. And then Israel goes, psych. And then they shell them, or they bomb them, or they, you know, they gun them down.
Well, that's the thing that I think is so sick about it, is that it's like, even the negotiations that people try to do, they fuck them over anyway. Like, it reminds me of like the things like you hear or you read about what happened to the indigenous people here. And that after they were displaced from their land and stolen from, there were so many times where indigenous tribes tried to negotiate with the US government and be like, okay, fine, just do this. And the US government would be like, all right, JK, we're not going to abide by the thing we just negotiated with you. We're going to break that too. Like, it's so crazy.
Yep, absolutely. I want to finish this, and I really want to get to Aaron Mate's response as well, because I really want to get into that, because Aaron Mate comes with the facts, and I really want to get him in as well.
What happens here? I mean, how do you get to peace, proper peace? How do you get to the potential of the start of a process for a genuine two-state solution if the terrorists that committed the atrocities on October the 7th stay around, stay armed, and say, we're going to be the militia for whoever governs this place?
Well, I think you've answered your own question. The fact remains is that cannot happen as long as you have a radical terrorist organization devoted to the destruction of Israel, somehow representing themselves as a national defense force. They'll just turn into another Hezbollah and turn the next Gaza into southern Lebanon. So it won't work.
So here's my thing. Like, okay, so he's basically saying something to the effect of, well, you know, they are a terrorist organization. Hang on. If you keep hitting me and you keep hitting me and you keep hitting me and I finally fight back, am I in the wrong after enduring your constant hits for a long time and I finally fight back? Am I?
It depends. What color are you?
Good question. Great question.
That's really the answer. It depends. Because if you're white, then you're a heroic resistance fighter. But if you're not, it reminds me of, you know, the meme with the different shades. It's like the what is it? It's the Family Guy meme where he's holding up the like passport, and it's like basically like the different shades decide whether or not you're actually defending yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's continue. I think he's about to get to Aaron Mate.
So what happens?
Well, I think we know. We've seen this show before. We know what's going to happen.
But he won't give the answer.
Right.
Oh, we know what's going to happen. Right.
Go on.
You sure do.
Well, I think we're going to see a continuation of military operations, special operations, until Hamas does, in fact, either disarm or, as has so often happened in the past, get on a boat and go to Tunisia or somewhere like that. There is no room inside of Gaza as part of a future two-state solution where they represent the military for that country.
But here's the crazy part. They keep talking about two-state solution. The hell, a two-state solution? Number one, there's never going to be a two-state solution. Number one. Secondly, with a one-state solution, they don't want that. The Zionists don't want that, because that would mean that the Palestinians, especially the people in Gaza, would have equal standing according to all the laws with them. And they don't want that, because guess what? They are afraid that the Palestinians will not want equality. They'll want revenge, similar to another people here in the United States.
Which, again, is just projection. They have no basis for that belief. But also it's the revenge thing, but it's also, by definition, their ethno-supremacist state depends on them being the majority.
True. Very true. Yeah. That's a great point. Thank you very much for that. All right. And let's get to this.
Marte, I saw Tony Blair, who's a contentious name at the moment because he wants to be part of the interim government, if you like, or administrative body looking over Gaza until they have a new government. And Donald Trump has said, I don't know if he's popular enough to be involved, so we'll see how that plays out. But he was talking about the parallels with Northern Ireland, where he did forge peace with Bill Clinton, with Senator Mitchell and others. And he was talking about that, you know, ultimately these things go one of two ways. When you have neighboring people who've been in long-time conflict with each other, they either continue to be in long-time conflict or they get to a point of genuinely wanting peace. And as part of that peace process, the IRA did disarm. So there is a parallel here for terror groups, as the IRA were, for disarming in the cause of peace. But is it likely that Hamas is ever going to want to see it like that? They seem a very nihilistic group who have been wedded publicly to destroying Israel. They said it after October the 7th through their spokesman on camera. We want to keep doing this. Is there any likelihood, do you think, of this following the similar path that we saw in Northern Ireland?
Well, first of all, my problem with Tony Blair putting aside his record as a war criminal with this analogy to Ireland is, in the case of Ireland, you don't have a dispute about the recognition of people's right to self-determination. That sort of underpins the conflict. There's an awareness there that in Ireland that the people of Northern Ireland are a people who have certain rights. In the case of Palestine, as we're discussing here, what I'm hearing from Mark and Shabbos is a complete lack of awareness. The Palestinians are living under a brutal military occupation. Either you recognize that or you don't. If you don't recognize that, you're going to have continued disaster for the entire region and continued misery, foremost for the Palestinian people. If you recognize, as most of the world does, pretty much the entire world, with the exception of the US and Israel, the Palestinians have been living under one of the most brutal, longest military occupations in the world and have been denied their basic rights. If you don't recognize that, you're not going to solve the problem. And Trump's so-called peace plan does nothing to address that. When it comes to the issue of Palestine self-determination and Palestinian statehood, there's one line. It says, we recognize Palestine self-determination and statehood as the aspiration of the Palestinian people. If you recognize something as an aspiration, but not as a right, you have no obligation to grant it. And the message from Israel, if you listen to Netanyahu, is that there will be no recognition. And he has the full backing of the US in that. And that's not just a Trump thing. This has been bipartisan US policy for decades to reject the one thing that could solve all this is grant Palestinians their minimal right to freedom. And so in that context, people want to make this about Hamas and how they have no right to be there. This isn't about Hamas. Even if Palestinians are the most pragmatic, docile people in the world, Israel would still insist, as they always have, on their self-declared right to steal their land because it's a Jewish supremacist state. Until that's resolved, you're going to have perpetual conflict. And just one correction on the issue of whether there could have been a deal. After October 7th, Hamas offered Israel to release all the civilian captives in exchange for Israel not attacking Gaza. Israel had no interest in that because October 7th gave them the opportunity to take care of the Gaza problem, as Norman Finkelstein has talked about on your show before. Destroying Gaza, expelling as many people as possible. That's why Israel abandoned its own captives. And that's why, and Anna was correct to say, there was a deal on the table well over a year ago. Israeli negotiator Gershon Baskin, who was years of contacts with Hamas, he's confirmed this. Hamas accepted the exact same deal that was just accepted now.
But
So, look, all this to say that I think Hamas gave a lot more leeway to Israel than, and look, I'm not Palestinian and I don't want to be this paternalistic Westerner that tells people what they should and shouldn't do. But from my standpoint, Palestinians have been way more than long suffering with the Zionists. They have been way more than long suffering. Really, I'll be honest with you, the Palestinians were the adults in the room.
Yeah. And they've put up with a lot more than most I think would, certainly, and they've endured so much more than so many people. I what I really liked about everything he said there was on point, but what I really liked that he pointed out was there is a denial of the occupation by the Zionists. They hate talking about that. They don't ever want to acknowledge that there is an occupation of Palestine, that they're the military occupiers of it. They just pretend, like the way they act is they pretend like they're on equal footing. They pretend like it's like a Ukraine-Russia situation where like Ukraine is its own state, Russia's its own state. They both have militaries. The Ukraine has the backing of the US, but they both are sovereign. That's how they act. That's how they talk about it. There's never an honest acknowledgement that the Palestinian people are subjects of Israel.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the things I want to do is because there was a Palestinian journalist that was murdered, and this was during the ceasefire. So I want to make sure that I show this, but I'm not going to show him after he has passed. I'm going to show him alive. And one of the things that I want to do, and this, in credit to the Palestinian activists that have been teaching me so well, especially to the Florida Palestine Network. Shout out to all of you who have been teaching me. I want to show the humanity of Palestinians, that I want to show them in their full humanity. I want to share with you guys this video. If you feel something at all, anybody in the audience, if you feel something, that's good. If you get misty-eyed, if you shed a tear, that's a good thing, because that means that your humanity is still there. So I want to share this. I'm going to read the caption and then we'll play the video. The caption says, journalist Saleh al-Jafarawi, sorry if I butchered his name, my apologies dearly, says he was kidnapped by Israeli-backed gangs in Gaza City. They fired 7 bullets and killed him, while his only weapon was his camera. He was smeared and targeted for 2 years during the genocide. May his memory be blessed. And here he is in his full humanity. This was, Blakeley, this hurt, especially because I've been watching this man for 2 years, repeatedly reporting. I've seen and heard bombs drop around him with tears in his eyes and running. And right when he's celebrating the ceasefire, he's celebrating it, he gets murdered. And so when I say, what ceasefire? And they'll say, oh, well, he was killed by his own people. Here's the crazy part. I don't care if a black man was killed by black police officers. They are black second, they are blue first. You don't think that doesn't happen within Palestine? Like, people just do not, they don't think about these things.
People don't question things. They just accept it. They just accept it, and they don't question just like basic shit. And the ironic thing about it is a I question things. Well, then just sit there and not question anything and just like accept whatever some propagandist is saying. And yeah, that was really hard to watch. That was really hard to watch, especially since, as you said, like just him being so ever present on all of our screens the last 2 years, and to see him celebrate the ceasefire just to be murdered a day later. It's just upsetting. It's not fair. I know that life isn't fair, but it's still hard to like process that and be like, why? Like, why? It's not fair. Like, could he not have lived out of all the journalists that they've murdered? They couldn't have left him alone after everything he endured?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I want to share this as well because there was another Palestinian journalist that was murdered. Anas al-Sharif, that was murdered earlier, just a few weeks ago. And him and al-Sharif were actually good friends.
Yeah.
And as we see it, you know, the reunion between them was very heartfelt. One would say they were probably like brothers. So I had to mute it because I don't want to get a copyright claim because of the music. But this is Palestinian culture.
Yeah.
This is what Palestinian resistance is trying to protect. And a lot of people do not want to acknowledge this. That they are a beautiful people who just want their land and houses and want to live in peace. And most of Hamas are actually orphans. And the question is, why are they orphans?
Right.
Why are they orphans? Why are they so angry?
Right. And they don't ask that, and they don't ask why, you know. To me, that video is not only beautiful and a beautiful representation of Palestinian culture, but it also answers the question why they're constantly terrorizing them. Look at that beach, that beautiful beach that they're on. They just happen to be born in a place that these colonizers want. And so they now have to suffer this extermination attempt because they don't want to leave where they were born.
Yeah. You know, and so my heart goes out to him and his family. His father, you know, there's video of his father, you know, over his, you know, slain body. Yeah. And
it's honestly horrifying that like it really upset. I never saw like dead people like this before watching the Gaza genocide. Yeah. I think that also like just watching videos of Palestinians doing things like hugging and talking also gave, when I was first learning about this, a totally different perspective I hadn't seen before. I never saw them before. Like I never actually saw videos of them talking, hanging out, just doing everyday things before. They were always just presented as like, you know, scary terrorists. And then it's like, you watch the videos of them just interacting with each other and you're like, wait, we're supposed to be scared of these people? We're supposed to be scared of these people. These kids, these moms, these just random guys hanging out. And then also like, then when I saw the video after they killed Saleh, it just like, and all the videos I've seen of the dead Palestinians, that's one of the things that is so painful about it too, is like how different people look when they're dead. They look so different. He did not, like he was yellow. Like it just, you don't, just the life being gone. It's so, it's so painful to watch. But then the one thing that kind of gives me a little bit of comfort is that they're so strong in their faith. They put out a statement afterwards that he had put out saying, like, if I die, if I am martyred. And that comforts me slightly because I know that they had such strong faith, but it's also hard just on a human level to like look at how different they look when they are dead. I thought I've seen this a lot. Like I saw photos of, obviously so many Palestinians that have been martyred, but there was that American that went to go protest in the occupied West Bank. Her name is Eggy. I don't want to I'm messing up her name, but she was the Turkish American who went to the occupied West Bank to Palestine, Ayşenur Eggy. And when she was killed, there was like a video of her and she just looks like almost like a different person. Mm-hmm. When the life is out of somebody, they don't look the same. Like it's just upsetting. It's
mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me share this as well. And while we're talking about, because I really want to show the video of Israelis that were hostages talking about their experience being hostages under Palestinian resistance. But if I play it, I might get taken down by YouTube.
Yeah, I was going to say, careful.
Yeah. But I will tell you this. There was an interview with a lady, and she was Israeli. She talked about how on the day of October 7th, Palestinian resistance, Hamas came over. And she was afraid. And Hamas said, you don't have to worry. We don't hurt women and children. And he said, is that a banana? And she's like, yeah. He's like, may I have it? He asked consent to get the banana. She said yes. And he had the banana. And they chatted and they laughed. And then they left her. There's video literally of hostages, Israeli hostages being released, and Israelis giving Hamas forehead kisses for how well they were treated while being hostages. Hamas was giving away goodie bags to Israeli prisoners.
That's the power of propaganda. That's the power of propaganda, though, because when Israel says things like, when Zionists get on media and go, we saw all these videos from October 7th that they're making up, like they'll just be making it up and making up a video that doesn't exist, and no one questions it. They'll go, oh, we saw them burning up 3 babies alive. That didn't happen. But they'll go, we all saw it, right? No, we didn't all see it. You just made that up.
Yeah. I want to share this. This is a Palestinian hostage that was released that's recounting what he went through by the Israelis.
وجع سنتين وانا جوعان انا طلعت من هون جوعان وانسجنت جوعان وطلعت جوعان اقسم بالله انه ما بناكل ولا بنشرب ونشبح عريانين واحنا بيشبحونا عريانين بيشبحونا ليل ونهار لحتى اليوم هم قاعدين بيجرحوا فينا.
So I want to read what he's saying. He says, for 2 years, I've been starving. I went to prison hungry and I came out hungry. I swear we don't eat or drink. We're sick, tortured day and night, suffering every kind of physical and mental abuse. They threaten us with our children. So this is what they're going through in Israeli prisons. So you have this happening, whereas the people who were hostages under under Palestinian, under Palestinians, they were treated well. And so this just goes to show that, the Palestinians could have done the same thing the Israelis did. And Israelis wanted the Palestinians to do that, because then that would be more of a propaganda for Israel to wipe Palestinians off the map. Mm-hmm. But instead, no, they didn't do that. And another thing I want to point out, and I'm going to let you go because you've been extremely generous with your time. But a lot of times people talk about, oh my God, the women and children of Palestine and how they've been treated. Mm. There was a book that I'm trying to get into that they're reading at the Florida Palestine Network and as part of their book club. And it's called Perfect Victims by Mohammed El-Kurd. And one of the things that he talks about is a lot of times people will focus on the women and children, but you also take agency away from the Palestinian women and saying, oh, well, they're not part of the resistance, when in reality, they are too. And on top of that, the men, their lives have just as much weight as everybody else because they were once kids. Their fathers, their brothers, their uncles, their sons. So therefore, this is why I try to be careful with my language and say, you know what? Any life is precious. And that's one thing I learned, especially from Florida Palestine Network, which I appreciate very much. And this is one of the reasons why I also decided to say a happy birthday to George Floyd, because even if he did do a few bad things, he should not be murdered by the state. Palestinians should not be murdered by the state of Israel for existing.
Right. It's an absurdity and it's a double standard. Because, of course,
yeah,
you know, if it were whatever white person that did something, everybody's like, yeah, but he's just a boy, even if he's 40. And they'll be like, yeah, but like it's not. But then when it's George Floyd, all of a sudden it's, yeah, but he committed crimes. Who gives a fuck? That's not the point. You don't get to kill someone because they committed a crime. That's what jail is for, bitch. That's what court is for. Like, it's just crazy. But I feel the same way, which is why I stopped doing that. I used to do the women and children thing too. Not only did I stop doing that because it totally dehumanizes the men and makes it like it's okay to murder them, but also I find the Palestinian men incredibly inspiring. These guys are heroes. These guys are in their fucking flip-flops, digging animals and children out from rubble with nothing. Like the heroism of the Palestinian men. They're amazing and they deserve to be just as protected and celebrated as the women and the children. I get it. I get the impulse to do that because you see this, like, I mean, women and children, they seem more helpless, more innocent. Men are stronger. Men are the ones historically that fight in war. So like, I get the reason why people do it, and well-meaning people do it because they're trying to get people to be sympathetic. But I look at it differently now that what was people started in the same way that you were talking to me about it and being like, no, like it does take away agency from the women. But even the women that are helpless and the guys that are fighting or the guys that are out there, these are heroic men that you hear stories about Palestinian men. And I have read stories and talked to people where they said these men, so that their women and children could have some food, walked over 2 miles to go to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, risking their lives so that they could get some bread or some flour for their family. Like, these guys are heroic. And they shouldn't have to be, but they deserve, just like everybody else, to live. You don't have a right to murder a 20-year-old Palestinian man because he's of military age.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, and I am so happy you joined me for this because you added a lot of levity to the conversation. And I just want to thank you for that. Also, I know that you are also wanting to make a quick announcement as well as something that you're trying to do if you would like to. And I also, to anybody who's watching, I also put Blakeley's link tree in the description down below as well. But go ahead, please.
Thank you. So yeah, if you guys want to follow me on any of my platforms, thank you for doing that. The last thing I want to say, aside from thank you so much for having me, this has been a great conversation. I really loved it. I want to draw attention to a Palestinian man, a really wonderful Palestinian man who has been missing in Gaza since last Friday, October 10th. He is a veterinarian. He works with Sulala Animal Rescue, who, if anybody is watching this and you're not already following Sulala Animal Rescue, please do. They're an incredible, the only operational animal rescue in Gaza. And the Moat is his name, Dr. Moat, and he has been the one who has been doing all the surgeries for the animals that have been hurt in Gaza. He has saved so many lives, and he has been missing. Last time he was seen was heading back to northern Gaza to the Jabalia neighborhood to try to find his old house, and they have not seen him since. We're really hoping that best case scenario, which is a sad best case scenario, that maybe he got arrested because they have not found his body yet. But the more time goes on and the more he hasn't come back, the more worried everyone is. And actually, if you don't mind, I'm just going to share his Instagram into the private chat with you, so maybe you can add it to the description in the live. He is still missing, and people are looking for him. And what we're asking is that people continue to amplify everything that is happening with Sulala and their account, and try to like bring awareness. And if you're a content creator, speak about it, post about it. If you're not, just share the post about it and try to amplify the story, because there needs to be accountability and awareness, and we need to find out what happened to him. I'm calling out all the so-called animal rights activists and groups in the West that have said nothing about this. When they should be drawing attention to it too. It's really disgraceful that they haven't said anything about it. ASPCA, the American Veterinarian Association, has not said anything about this. We need to find out where he is. And so if anybody has any idea where he might be, if you know anybody in Gaza, if you've heard anything, please spread the word, because we have still not found him.
Ooh, yeah. And I've been seeing a lot of animals that have suffered in Gaza as well. I've seen Palestinians with their cats. I've seen one with Palestinians with their dog, and I mean, that dog looked like it's one of the sweetest dogs in the world. So calm, so relaxed. In fact, I will show this too, because this actually is kind of related as well. Because and I just shared the link to the Instagram in the chat as well. But his Saleh with a dog.
That's another lie that also the Zionists use to dehumanize Palestinians, is to claim that, Muslims are terrible to animals, that they're terrible to animals. They don't care about animals. And it's like, it's another disgusting lie. It's also meant to turn people in the West against them, because people know how we are in the West, especially white people, with our animals, with our dogs and our cats. And to me, it's another tactic to try to dehumanize them. They do amazing work. Sulala Animal Rescue does incredible work. In fact, most of the people that work at Sulala Animal Rescue, another thing they try to always lie about is say, oh, there's no Black Palestinians. No, there are Black Palestinians. Most of the people running Sulala Animal Rescue are Afro-Palestinians, actually. So like, just more lies, more dehumanization. But yeah, they're an incredible organization. Also, this sweater that I'm wearing right now that says "Stop the Genocide." This is being done by oh, my dog. I don't know if you can read it, if you can see it. It's animalwag.org. They're on Instagram also as Animal Wag on Instagram. And they're also one of the only veterinary organizations that are in the West that started during this, that are fighting for animals in Gaza and have been trying to get someone in Gaza when most of the outside Western organizations are ignoring it.
Yep. And just for anybody, here is Blakeley's link tree as well. It's also in the description down below. So you guys got all the links as well for Blakeley. And just as a, for anybody who doesn't know, Side note, here's a little secret for y'all. I'm going to share with you right now in regards to Palestinians. They love cats. They love cats.
Yeah.
So if you got a cat, you can make friends with Palestinian real quick because they're cat lovers. So yeah.
Yeah, they do. So, yeah. So again, if you guys are anybody who's seen this, please make sure you follow both those accounts on Instagram and talk about Dr. Muat because we still have not found him and we need to find him. And So thank you, Jay, again for having me. It was really great. I had a wonderful time speaking with you. And until next time.
There definitely will be a next time. And thank you so very much for being extremely generous with your time.
Yeah.
It is deeply appreciated.
It was
a wonderful
time. Yes, it was great to be here. All right, everybody. I'll see you later. Free Palestine.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Absolutely. Go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you so very much. That went very well. I've been wanting to talk to Blakeley for quite some time, and it was the opportunity was like, hey, you can talk? Great, let's go. So I wanted to make sure I got the chance to talk to them. But yes, guys, if you guys have not already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. We really appreciate it here on the channel. Let's get into the comments in the chat. We're going to make this very quick because I got a couple more stories to go over, and then we will be finished for today. But I'm going to check on the Rumble side to see if we have any Rumble rants. We do. Been great. And then we shall continue on. We got people in the Rumble chat, but we have no Rumble rants, so we're good there. Thank you very much. Let me check on the Kick side. Let me make sure I have this up. That was one thing I forgot. All right. Just checking on Kick to see if I have any gifted subs. I don't see any as of right now, so we're good there. But let's get to the rest of the chat. All right. Let's make this quick. Let's make this fast. Let's make it go. Let's make it last. All right. So you have Austin coming in saying, we want freedom, not freedom. Yeah, we're going to be getting into that in a little bit. Actually, you know what? First, let me do this. Let's thank the patrons on Patreon, shall we? We're going to thank the patrons on Patreon. Here we go. Here are the tiers. We have Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, Jaybefaunters, and we have Comrade, we have Solidarity, and then we have JB members. And then as for new members, let's give them a big old shout out. We have Robert J. McCormick and Nyron coming in. Thank you so very much for becoming patrons on Patreon. Without you guys, I would not be able to do what I do here. If you guys have not noticed, my channel is demonetized. So if you would like to support the channel, you can support via Patreon or PayPal. So thank you very much for that. Now, let's continue on in the chat. All right. Edward says, what's up, JB? Good to see you. Edward says, the ceasefire is just for a little while because Israel will strike again, lying about Hamas breaking the agreement. Israel's goal to exterminate the Palestinians. Yep, absolutely. Let's see. Zero coming in saying, finally. Russian coming in saying, Nazis always pick a ceasefire just so that they can regroup and attack. Holly coming in and saying, hi, JB. Hi, Blakeley. All right. We have Austin saying, have you heard of Glow Boy TV before? No, I have not. Thank you very much. You have Edward coming in and saying, I'm back. It's October. Some people are watching poultry, guys. I'm not one of them. Holly says RIP. Jimmy Apples saying thank you for being here, JB. Thank you so very much, Jimmy. All right. We have Jacqueline coming in saying, hey, JB and Blakeley. Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late and listening to the beginning, but making a cup of tea. I hope it's really good tea. Thank you so very much. I hope it's delicious. We have CBC voter coming in saying happy Tuesday at JB. We have no more effing wars, says no more effing wars were posted to stream. Thank you very much for that. Would like to expand as far as possible. Edward says cultural gaslighting. Absolutely. So we have a lot of cultural gaslighting going on here. 5 Starry Eyes. They also reposted the stream. Thank you very much. There is merit in barbarity, says it is so good to see you healthy, JB. Love, Blakeley. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it. Oh, by the way, I actually went to go visit my former dialysis center yesterday because Sunday was my 6th-month anniversary. So that was a really great reunion. It was so good to see all of them again. I got to see fellow patients and staff members, and I got to see my nurse practitioner from there. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. SG says, hey, Jacqueline. Michelita says, hello, everyone. Blakeley, I have seen on Instagram them sharing their own experience is good for so many to hear. Absolutely. Thank you so very much for that. Let me see. Matthew and Chloe says, very sharp threads, JD. Mwah. Thank you very much to you guys. Appreciate it. My friend, Joey Peltier says, Ainin Boozhoo, Jacqueline, good to see you. Thank you very much. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Please don't cancel me. I'm trying my best. I'm trying to be good. Joey Peltier also says Jewish supremacy is another form of white supremacist. Absolutely, I agree. All right. You see, Michelita says Anna is so not a good person. Don't take me wrong. Her strongly speaking out against Israel and the genocide is important. But do you all remember what she was saying about the homeless people in LA? And yes, so I have heavy disagreements with Anna on a few things, but I also give credit to where credit is due. Where she is talking about the issue regarding Israel and Palestine, and she's going after both Democrats and Republicans. I do give her credit for that. But I heavily disagree with her in regards to some of these other things. I think that the speaking about the homeless issue, I think she is I think she needs further study into the issue, especially in regards to a housing first model and what it could do for people who are unhoused and giving them dignity within this country. I think that there's a lot of growth that is necessary on her part and the part of many people who consider themselves to be on the left. I think they need to grow in that aspect. But yeah, thank you very much for that, Michelita. Let me see. And then we also had a troll in the chat. That guy was saying some bigoted things. So, I try to get to people who say bigoted stuff like that, but sometimes I'm a little busy looking at other things. But thank you very much for enduring, people. Jay says, white people don't give a F about animals. They just like owning things. Unfortunately, it's, white supremacist culture. Yes. There are a lot of white people who are trying to do the work, and I credit them. But unfortunately, culture wise, especially in the past, that was a big thing. So this question is why and what do they fear? Losing their power, ultimately. All right, so let's get into the next subjects that we shall get into today. So, of course, what did we talk about already? So we already went through and we talked about what ceasefire. We talked about that with Blakeley. And look, we had to get into it, in regards to what was going on Piers Morgan. Look, he's always making excuses for, Israel and people like Trump, and really, speaking for the empire, being a stenographer for the empire, which I heavily disagree with, and I honestly think that is part of the manufacturing consent that keeps people where they are. But we're going to be moving on to the next subject. We're going to be talking about Black Americans in this country, and I think it's absolutely important that we get into this. Freedmen vetoed. So we're going to be getting into this story right now. We're going to be talking about Mr. California Blue himself, Gavin Newsom. So he turns his back on us. Let's get into this, because Gavin Newsom, don't you know no good? Don't you know no good? So Gavin Newsom has had a bill that was brought before him, and this bill essentially would make it so that there is heavy consideration and admissions for Black American freedmen. And so I say that distinctly because this is not a bill just for blanketed for all Black people. This is for people who are descendants of the enslaved in this country. And so because of that status, well, then this bill should have been a layup. But it wasn't. So I'm going to get into this. We're going to get into the nuts and bolts as well. But this really shows that even just this modicum of pushing for something that would actually help Black Americans within the state of California, they actually don't want to do it. And this is not just limited to Democrats. This is also Republicans would do the same thing as well. Let's get into this as well right here, right now. The new California bill ties legacy of slavery to college admissions. Let's get into it. Oops, sorry. I have it muted. Okay.
A California bill that would let descendants of slavery bypass the state's affirmative action ban when applying to college has passed the state assembly and is now heading to the Senate. Democratic Assemblyman Isaac Bryan stated recently that the bill is not about race after it won passage along a party-line vote. The bill would not apply to all Black college applicants in California, only to those who could show that they were direct descendants of slavery. The committee staff also noted that some people who identify as white have learned from DNA tests that they are of African descent and may qualify under the bill. The Pacific Legal Foundation, a conservative nonprofit organization, told the San Francisco Chronicle that Bryan's bill was aimed at restoring preferential treatment based on the applicant's race, despite its descendants of slavery language. In 1996, Californians voted for Proposition 209, a ballot measure that stops state colleges and universities from giving preferential treatment to applicants based on race, sex, or ethnicity. 2 years ago, the Supreme Court also outlawed affirmative action at colleges and universities nationwide, saying consideration of an applicant's race or ethnicity is an act of racial discrimination. If the bill clears the state Senate and is signed by Governor Gavin Newsom, the Supreme Court could once again have the final say.
Okay. So let's go over this really quick, because I think there's some confusion here, because people are saying this has to do with race. It actually does not. So let me go over this really quick. All right. Because I want to make this abundantly clear. So let's go over this.
Assemblyman Isaac Bryan stated recently that the bill is not about race after it won passage along a party-line vote. The bill would not apply to all black college applicants in California, only to those who could show that they were direct descendants of slavery. The committee.
So that is the point that a lot of people are missing the piece of, is that when it comes to American freedmen, they are not, this does not apply to all black people. Therefore, it is not a bill that is focused on race. I talked about this with Naheem Way, is that this is actually about status. A status being that you are a descendant of freedmen, which was the name given to black Americans that were of descendants of chattel slavery. And so because they are freedmen, then they would qualify because of what this nation has done to freedmen in the past. And so therefore, this is part of the equalizing taking place within this country. The problem is that a lot of people, when they think slavery, they automatically think 100% black. But just because you're black doesn't mean you're a descendant of chattel slavery in these United States. Now, you could be a descendant of slavery from Jamaica, Trinidad. You could be a descendant of African descent who were enslaved in Brazil. You could be one in Haiti, but that doesn't apply to you because you are a descendant of chattel slavery who was under France, who was under Portugal. So therefore, or if you were from Jamaica, then it would be under England. So therefore, it would not be owed to you from the United States because your family was not in this country during chattel slavery. And so it's not by race, it is by a status. But the problem is that they're using the race of the people to get around so that they don't have to approve the bill. Because if they were to approve this bill, then this would mean that there would be a raising of the standards for people who have been, besides Native Americans, the most oppressed people in this country. So between us and Native Americans, we have the most oppression out of any group in this country. Historically. For the last, in this country's existence, 250 years. But if you want to talk about the entirety of colonialism on this land, 400, 500 years, right? Go back all the way, to 1492, right? And the hell with Christopher Columbus, he can go kick rocks. He can go kick rocks in hell for all I care. Right? So that's why this bill was crafted and said the way it did, because it was not focused on particularly black people. So let's continue this because I think this is also really important.
Committee staff also noted that some people who identify as white have learned from DNA tests that they are of African descent and may qualify under the bill.
So there are also people who may be white passing, right? Who are freedmen. And a lot of times what ends up happening is you'll have somebody that's white passing because of the rape and sexual assault that has happened to many women who were under the yoke of chattel slavery. And so then they bore children that came from the white enslavers. And so now those kids may have had kids down the line that maybe they intermix with other Europeans and they still have that lineage there. So they may also be qualified for getting not just this bill, right? They also may qualify for reparations as well. This is why it is not a race issue. It is a status issue. And so when people keep saying, oh, well, black people just, no. You got to remember, it is a status issue, not a race issue. And people want to say, oh, this is just about black people. No, but here's the thing. Now, two things can be true at the same time. Yes, most black people who live in this country are victims of slavery. But at the same time, not all black people in this country are victims of chattel slavery under the United States. They may have been victims of chattel slavery from France, Portugal, Spain, England, so on and so forth. Therefore, their claim needs to be met with those respective governments. And though this one is those of us who are under the United States, meaning that we are taking it up with the United States government and also the state governments like California in order to get some type of equalizing to take place within our country. So that's why the language was the way it was. But they're confusing it with race on purpose. They're not dumb. You see how easy it was for me to explain that to you? I don't have a JD. I don't have a law degree. I can explain it. I never even went to college. I can explain it to you. So if I can understand this concept, they can understand this concept. Gavin Newsom can understand this concept, but he doesn't want to. Let's continue on this as well.
Pacific Legal Foundation, a conservative nonprofit organization, told the San Francisco Chronicle that Bryan's bill was aimed at restoring preferential treatment based on the applicant's race, despite its descendants of slavery language.
So they're basically trying to say that he's just trying to get around it. But the thing is, like, if you're doing it just for freedmen, then it's not going to apply to all black people. So look, somebody could be second or third generation Bahamian, and they come here and they're like, yeah, I'm black. They won't qualify. They could be second or third generation Ethiopian. They won't qualify. They could be like, well, I was born here. Yeah, but your parents are not descendants of chattel slavery from the United States. And that lineage can be proven. So if that's the case, then there is no go around here. However, the majority of black people in this country are descendants of chattel slaves, which means there's a lot of black people that would actually get preferential treatment within the state of California. A lot. Because of what the United States has done systematically to those of us who are black Americans. So let's get into the nuts and bolts in this. And I have my thoughts regarding this bill, but I want to get into nuts and bolts before I give my thoughts. Because when I initially heard this, I asked a few people, what they thought about it. And they have some thoughts too, and I'll share those. I'll recount those with you as well. But here we go. It says Newsom rejects bill giving descendants of slaves preference in college admissions. The measure would likely face legal challenges by opponents of affirmative action. Here's the thing, though. This isn't affirmative action based on race. It wouldn't be. Anyway, let's continue. It says Governor Gavin Newsom delivered a setback to reparations movement in California on Monday, vetoing a bill that would have allowed universities to give slave descendants special consideration in admissions. In a message explaining his decision, Newsom called the bill unnecessary, saying universities already have the authority to determine whether to provide admission preferences to descendants of slavery or other groups. The bill was also likely to have invited legal challenge from opponents. Critics argue it would violate Proposition 209, which prohibits the state's public universities from considering race in admissions, and the 2023 ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court against race-based affirmative action. But like I said, this is not race-based. It is status-based, meaning just so happened that a majority of the people just so happen to be black. But it's not based on their race. It is based on their status of being descendants of people who were enslaved under chattel slavery. And so see how they're trying to mix it? They're trying to mix it together so that they can stop giving anything close to repair whatsoever in this country. This is what they're doing. Let's continue on. It says Newsom decision comes at a time of heightened tensions that the Trump administration has cracked down on diversity initiatives on college campuses by launching investigations and threatening to pull federal funding. In California, Trump has specifically charted UCLA, demanding it pay $1 billion and agreed to a set of reforms to free up more than $500 million in research grants it withheld over allegations of anti-Semitism on campus. Now, of course, we just talked about what's going on in Gaza. Here's the thing. A lot of people may get this confused, but quiet as it's kept, look, speaking against the state of Israel and speaking out against Jewish supremacy and Zionism, it's not anti-Semitic, because we join our voices with other people who are Jewish who also echo the same sentiments as well. And so, therefore, it is not anti-Semitic, but they're trying to use it as a way in order to punish people who are anti-genocide. That's what it basically boils down to. Let's continue on. It says, while the Trump administration threatens our institutions of higher learning and attacks the foundation of diversity and inclusivity, now is not the time to shy away from the fight to protect students who have descended from legacies of harm and exclusion. Says Newsom in his message encouraged universities to review and determine how, when, and if this type of preference can be adopted. Last week, the governor approved a measure citing state agency to administer reparations, and he signed another bill Monday that requires the California State University system to develop procedures to determine who qualifies as a descendant of slavery. But Newsom also vetoed two other reparations-related bills, both from Assemblymember Tina McKenna. One would have helped victims of racially motivated eminent domain get compensation, and another would have provided home buying assistance to descendants of slaves. This is the second time the governor has vetoed a bill providing redress for Californians who had their property seized. Last year, he declined to sign similar legislation from the state senator Stephen Bradford, citing the lack of an agency to run the program. So the school admissions bill AB 7, which passed the Assembly at 55-18 and the Senate 30-10, would have permitted but not required schools to give preference to descendants of slavery. The bill, which was believed to be a first of its kind in the U.S., was part of a reparations package published by the Legislative Black Caucus. It would have defined a descendant of slavery as someone directly related to a person who was subjugated to American chattel slavery and was then either freed, classified as a runaway, or served in the military while facing restrictions due to slavery. So if you think about this, it's basically taking the totality of reparations and piecing it, and trying to piecemeal it through state legislators in order to, eventually build an entire reparations package that's approved. So then you have, for instance, right now they're tackling the education aspect, right? Preferential treatment towards American freedmen when it comes to their education. And then you have another one when it comes to home buying assistance. So it's not home buying assistance for Black people. This is home buying assistance for freedmen. And then you have another one where, let's say, they want to do one that is tax breaks, right? Or it could be employment opportunities within municipal, state, or federal government. Things like this, right? Because of the historic harm that's been done that has not been redressed, has not been repaired, it has not been even apologized for. So this is basically, it's like, instead of taking the entire car and shipping it to a place, it's like, okay, we don't have enough space. Okay, we'll take a car apart. First, we're going to transport the tires. They're going to transport, the seats. Then we're going to transport the drivetrain. Then we're going to transport the engine block. Then we're going to transport, the outer body, and then we're going to transport like the computer systems, things like that, right? And then rebuild it once you get it there. So essentially, it's kind of like that. The problem is that they don't want to approve of any of it, even though it is not race-based. It is only status-based. So it says the proposal was backed by the University of California Students Association, which argued it addresses a fraction of the harm done to Black students by systemic discrimination. The California Faculty Association said that the law would provide a critical and necessary option for California's higher education institutions to thoughtfully and appropriately consider a student's lineage as a factor in admissions decisions. So here's the thing. The reason why I kept using the word status is because lineage can be tied to race too, right? This is why status is important, because the thing is, like, it being freedmen is a status based on how your descendants were treated systematically throughout this country, going from slavery to Reconstruction to Jim Crow. And then we had the periods of, the drug war, mass incarceration, so on and so forth. Says that measure, however, was met with questions and concerns from legislative committee staff over how it will be implemented, the number of generations of descendants who will qualify, and how eligibility would be determined. So let's break this down. The measure met with questions, concerns from legislative committee staff over how it will be implemented. So how it will be implemented, that is pretty much, I bet you they can actually come up with a policy that's easy as to how it will be implemented, right? In regards to, because it says the number of generation descendants, like how it will be implemented, like how are you going to find out who's a American descendant of chattel slavery? Well, first of all, we got things like DNA tests. Like if Maury can find out who the father is, I think that the governments can find out who the father and the mother is, even if the person was adopted, right? There are birth records, right? You can get these information from the vital statistics, and genealogists can come together. You can hire the genealogist to actually help and go through. Some people already know, like for instance, my family, I can go back to my 5th great grandfather who was born in 1792 in these United States in Essex County, Virginia. There's literally a slave plantation with my last name. Come on now. So it's not going to be that hard for a lot of us, a huge chunk of us. You can find that out. There are literally records where it goes, oh, well, this person who is a descendant of this person, and they're not Negro, they're mulatto. Well, why in the hell would they be mulatto? So they may be somebody that's lightish, that, they kind of high yellow, like we used to call it. Or in the South, they call them red bone. Light skin, for those who are not initiated. But it's not that hard to find out. Like if Ancestry.com can do it, If 23andMe can do it, if all these other ones can do it, you mean to tell me that the United States government, or even the governments of like California, Florida, South Carolina, Mississippi, Georgia, Virginia, you mean to tell me that they can't do it? And now it says the number of generations of descendants who will qualify. I mean, you go until the repair is done. You go until the repair is done. Like, why are we sitting here going, oh, how many generations? Well, we're going to have to go all the way back up until now. And then the new generations until the repair is fully done. Once the repair has fully been implemented, then that could be where it cuts off. And people can go, well, that will cost us a lot of money. Well, y'all should have repaired us a long time ago then. Hey, hop to it, guys. Time is running out. That's the thing, though. A lot of times people will say, well, we can't afford this. I'm like, y'all can afford giving tax breaks to all these billionaires. Y'all can look. This is California, y'all. How many billionaires live in California? First of all. Second of all, in 2020, I think it was in March, Congress approved and dumped $4 trillion into the markets to help keep the corporations above water. $4 trillion. Now, I think it's in Dr. Sandy Darity's book, From Here to Equality, I think it's somewhere estimated close to around $20 trillion. If they can do $4 trillion in 1 year, that means that they only need 5 years in order to fully pay back reparations to freedmen. 5 years. Oh, we can do $4 trillion for 5 years. We can do $4 trillion each year for 5 years. If you're, oh my God, that's so much money. I'm like, well, I guess we need to cut the military budget then. I guess we need to stop giving subsidies to big pharma. I guess we need to stop giving subsidies to the military industrial complex. I guess we need to stop giving subsidies to these billionaires and big tech companies. I guess no more Palantir. I guess Amazon is not going to be getting that tax break anymore. I guess they're going to have to pay up. I guess we're going to have to break up banks like Wells Fargo, and we have to break up insurance companies like Aetna, because they're the ones who literally owe us basically the entirety of the worth of their companies. If we're really going to get down about it. People are like, how we can afford it? Look, first of all, if you're white and you're poor, or even if you're white and slightly affluent, you ain't got nothing that we going to take from you. What do you got? Are you actually a descendant of enslavers? Do you have that generational wealth that you're sitting on? No? Then, it don't apply to you. That's the thing. And people get worried because why are you worried? It has nothing to do with you. Oh my God, the country's going to go bankrupt. Guess what? We're going bankrupt right now by giving all these tax breaks to these billionaires. Might as well give it to working class freedmen. A majority of us are working class anyway. That money is going to recirculate and come back into the economy. It's going to come back to y'all anyway. But that's the crazy part. It's wild, man. It's wild. Anyway. I don't want to go off on a tangent, even though I just started, but this is basically the nuts and bolts. And the fact that Gavin Newsom did this, it just shows that really neither party really has any type of solidarity or any type of will or want or desire to really repair the stain of slavery that they have continued to allow to take place within this country. All right. Looking at what they have, allowed to continue. Like, for instance, Joe Biden with the 94 crime bill. That was They sat by and watched that happen. One of the only people that actually said something, even though he still voted for the bill, was Bernie Sanders. He was like, well, I'll sign it for the Violence Against Women Act, but this bill is going to be detrimental to Black people. And please don't come in the comments and be like, well, the Congressional Black Caucus, they agree with it. They were wrong. They were wrong. They fell for the okie doke. Black people in the past, they could be wrong too. Look, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. himself said, I fear I may have brought my people into a burning house. He recognized, yeah, maybe I was a little bit misguided in some things. That's okay to acknowledge that. The Congressional Black Caucus was wrong. As we can see today, the Congressional Black Caucus is really a bunch of turncoats that actually don't give a damn about Black people. They just want to collect that check. And I say this also to the people who are in MAGA cult, who are also Black, who also are just trying to sell us out for a check too. This is why I say both parties are trash, because they don't give a damn about us in the first place. And so now my opinions about this bill. I've seen many people who have responded to this. Some people who are from the ADOS Foundation, some of them thought that it was a good thing, or it was measurably good. Some others, like people like Naheem Way, said that this was not it. This is basically them just throwing crumbs. This is basically just crumbs. I asked other people, like for instance, I asked Roger Meadows and I asked my sister Sabby Sabs, and they were like, it's not really reparations. It's just for college admissions. Like, because number one, you got to think, not all Black people go to college. Number one. Number two, not all Black people are going to go to college, because college is not for everybody. So how is this going to affect freedmen across the board? It's not. It's only going to affect freedmen who live in California, who's going to go to college there. And it's not a requirement. It just opens up for them to be able to use it as a consideration. So therefore, it is crumbs. So my thoughts about that bill, this was crumbs. This was a half of a half of a half measure. And even then, the Democratic Party, people like Gavin Newsom didn't want to do it. So to anybody who's Black American who thinks that the Democratic Party stands with us, they want you to remain in their party just so they can continue to use you. You are a token. You are a token to them. And it is time for Black people to stop accepting crumbs. No more. If you really think that the way to Black liberation is through either one of these parties, I have a big, beautiful diamond encrusted bridge over an active volcano to sell you. Prime real estate. But here's the problem. We're conditioned to be in this, under the yoke of both parties like this. We're conditioned. And so ultimately what needs to happen now is that we need to open our eyes and realize that Black liberation will never come from either one of these parties. And Black liberation will come from the bottom up through completely changing the system. And remember, the system that has kept us like this is two things: white supremacy and capitalism. And capitalism uses white supremacy to keep itself alive. So why in the hell would I embrace a system that has subjugated our ancestors in order to try to make it in this country. I might as well dig up my ancestors' graves and slap them in the face. I'm not going to do that. I have too much honor and respect for them. I'm not going to embrace a system that subjected them to chattel slavery. I honestly do think that we as Black people need to run, not walk, run from capitalism. Because it's the reason why we're in this situation right now. So this bill, while it was a half of a half of a half measure, was really telling. Because this showed us exactly who the Democratic Party is. So it's exactly who Gavin Newsom is. And guaranteed, if a Republican was governor in California, same thing would have happened. Because I definitely don't see somebody like Ron DeSantis ever going for that. They won't. And so this is why it's so important for us to really unite and push for a system that is favorable to all, but especially favorable to giving repair to the most marginalized among us. Go ahead and give a like to the stream. Let's go ahead and go into the chat. Thank you so very much. Let's go and get Rumble back. All right. So we got no Rumble rants. We're good there. Let's take a look and see if we have anybody on Kick. And yes, somebody asked me on Kick. Somebody asked me on Kick if I'm live and do I answer the questions. Yes, I do. I couldn't find it in the regular. I couldn't find it in the regular chat on StreamYard, but yeah. Let me go here. Yes, Sean says, amazing stream as always, JB. Gavin can sod all the way off. Says Butch Ware 2026. Also, sorry to randomly ask yes or no on Prop 50. I don't know what Prop 50 is. I have to do my research first. I can't say yes or no to that. I have no idea what it is. I have to research it. But thank you very much. I'll have to look into it. Let me see. We got Sensei saying, JB, Sensei. Hey, Sensei. Roger Miller says Jacqueline Hemmings started in 1898 with South Dakota. Hang on. I didn't see you in the chat, Roger. Hang on. Let me go up. Oh. Let me see. Okay. Oh, I went way back up. And yes, I do answer to questions. Yes. Unless it gets a little too personal, you know what I mean? Okay, now I know where I'm at now. Okay. Joey says most of the court cases out of the uprising in Minneapolis for vandalism and violence were white people and many of the white nationalist militia members effing up grieving communities of color who have the right to gather and grieve as a community. Everybody give Joey a hand in the chat. Joey coming in with the receipts and the clapbacks. I love it. Absolutely. See, this is why you win, Joey. This is why you win. And in my mind, you are a winner. Thank you very much. Let me see. Oh yeah, He says everyone is welcome to go check out and meet the organizers who hold down George Floyd Square in Minneapolis. It's a welcoming and friendly community. Joey, just let me know one thing. Do they barbecue out there? Please tell me they barbecue out there. Please tell me they barbecue out there. If they do, I'm going. Because I'm hungry. I'm sorry. My big back is showing. Rondo says, you should expect nothing from Mussolini. You know, it's funny. See, I don't want to insult an animated character, but because Gavin Newsom always has his hair slicked back, I want to call him a pimp named Slickback. Yes, that's right. A pimp named Slickback. You got to say the whole thing. That's like a Tribe Called Quest. Anyway, Jay Davis says based on discrimination, not race. Jay says there's something to be said about Black non-Americans impacted by U.S. imperialism, for example, Haiti. Yes, and that is a separate claim, but I think it's just as legitimate. So I think that yes, also like people who are victims of U.S. imperialism, they deserve reparations too. And that is a separate claim, but I think they also should make that claim too. I think they should fight for that too. But yes, I agree. I think everybody should be fighting. Like, for instance, France needs to pay up. France needs to pay up. Portugal needs to pay up. England needs to pay up, not just to people who were chattel slaves here in the United States, but also to some of the islands, you know, like Jamaica. Italy needs to pay up. Like, these countries in Europe really need to pay up and just like repair. Jacqueline says, will the descendants of freedmen need to provide proof in order to claim this? And what proof will they need to provide? Ultimately, maybe, you know, a few different forms, maybe birth certificate, social security card, blood sample, right? You know, maybe saliva sample, maybe a saliva swab, a cheek swab, stuff like that. I mean, you know, give their name out and, you know, all that legal stuff. If they're adopted, then they can do that too. But yeah, I mean, these things can be linked, right? They can find like who you're descendant of, and then they can go also, you know, and then they can cross-examine it with we have AI, man. If they can use Palantir to compile all the data and get all this information on people, they can actually use AI to compile all the data in order to find out who is a descendant of Americans that have been chattel slaves. They can actually do it. They just don't want to. And they can compile all that data. You know, they can do all the vital statistics and genealogy offices across this nation, and then have it in a central database and collect it and compile it so that it links every person who's a freedman. And then they go, oh, this person is a descendant of this line. This person is a descendant of that line. And these are cousins, first cousins, second cousins, third cousins, first cousins twice removed, second cousins twice removed, and so on and so forth. They can do all that. It can be done. They just don't want to. But yeah, it's sick because they don't actually want anything to come about of real liberation. Juggernaut said, Gavin is an undercover Republican. Oh, wait. Roger says California Prop 50 has to do with an amendment asking the voters to agree with withdrawing congressional districts. Every governor looking at redistricting insane. Hold my beer. Oh no. Oh no. My goodness. Yeah. Yeah, Roger's absolutely correct. It's very easy to trace our lineage back to slavery. Slaveholders kept records of their slaves. Yep. Like there's actual receipts for the sale of slaves. James Murray says Dr. Williams' solidarity has a criteria to consider. For example, locating an ancestor on the 1870 U.S. Census, the first census including the formerly enslaved. Yep. Thank you very much. All right. So we're going to get into the final one. It's the final countdown. Let me see. Let's get into. So, of course, take that down. We talked about, of course, what's happening in Palestine right now. We asked what ceasefire. And then we talked about freedmen that were vetoed basically from higher ed, from being heavily considered in higher ed, basically because of their status. So, yeah, we talked about that. But now we're going to be going to PTO to sleep. This affects all workers across this country, and we got to get into this because I'm getting back into the workforce, and I might end up having to do this. So, PTO, pooped, tired, overworked. Let's get into it. This is something I'm not looking forward to because now I'm going to be going back into the workforce post-transplant. And in the system that we live in, most workers are now overworked and underpaid, and they're actually trying to find rest whenever they can. But just a simple day off doesn't do it. You ever have a day off, but then you find yourself working on your day off? And by working, I mean laundry has to get done. If you're a parent with kids, good luck. You have to clean the house. You got to do the yard. You got to take care of somebody. You got to run errands. You got all these different things to do on your day off. And so you really can't just stay home and do nothing, drift off to sleep and rest. You can't rest your mind. You can't rest your body. And so you're dealing with that. And so there seems to be a phenomenon that's happening now where a lot of Americans are now using their paid time off to sleep. I wish I was joking, but this is how dystopian this country has become. So I would like to share this article with you guys because this one, it's sad. It's sad because it just shows how this country has pushed Americans to the point where we can't even vacation anymore. So let's get into this. It says Americans are using PTO to sleep, not for vacation. So it says a large number of Americans are using PTO to sleep rather than take a vacation. It says an AmeriSleep.com survey of more than 1,200 Americans revealed that 37% used vacation days in the past year just to rest. It says, while many companies have updated their PTO policies to be more flexible or even unlimited in nature, Americans may be less likely to use their time off for vacation due to higher costs of living. However, overall exhaustion can play a key role, sparking many workers to take their time off to rest instead of following any specific plans. I want to stop here for a second because I really want to make this abundantly clear. Workers, when I say we are overworked, this is not hyperbole. This is not my personal opinion. It is in the data. So let's take a look here because I just want to share this with you guys because humans, we're already hard workers by nature, but I want to share that the data even shows how we are at a productivity boom in this country. And I want to get this. So this is a chart that was shared. So it talks about U.S. labor productivity. It says cumulative U.S. productivity growth has exceeded pre-pandemic levels since 2020. So you see kind of like the pale yellow line says overall U.S. labor productivity, real output per hour worked, right? And then it goes over the growth, right? Quarter 1, 2015 to quarter 4, 2019, a 7.7 growth. And then it goes quarter 4 of 2019 to quarter 3 of 2024, 8.9% growth. And so as you go up from 2015, right, which is way at the axis of X and Y, right, you continue on and it is pretty much gradual. But after 2020, that's when work goes back up. So by the time you hit here, and meanwhile, this line right here, if you guys can see my cursor, that's 2021. So even during the pandemic, it says productivity stalls fails when low wage workers are rehired, right? But even still, right? It says productivity spikes artificially when low-wage workers are disproportionately laid off during the pandemic. But it spikes up. And so then it continues on this upward trajectory. Yeah, it dips a little bit, but now it's still only up and up. We have been increasing productivity exponentially for the last 50 years. To the point where we overproduce in this country. We overproduce so many goods and services to the point where we have an abundance, especially when it comes to services, because we are a very deeply service economy. And so for anybody to say, oh, we're just lazy. No. We are overworked. We are underpaid, and now we're using time that we should be taking to recharge ourselves in a social way with vacations, and we're using it to physically recharge with sleep because we're not getting enough of it during our work hours, during our work days. So let's go back to the article. It says, however, overall exhaustion can play a key role, sparking many workers to take their time off to rest instead of following any specific plans. It says the new report found that 1/3 of workers aren't spending their vacation on leisure because they're using it to recover from exhaustion. The rate that was highest among millennials, my generation, says at 43%, followed by 34%, and just 20% of baby boomers. So now, it says people often crave this unattainable work-life balance. where many Americans are using time off to just catch up on rest. Says, with the demands of children, extended family, and daily social engagement, it stands to reason that many of us are looking for respite to recharge the life battery wherever we can. Says the survey also found that higher earners were 26% more likely to use PTO for sleep than those earning under $100,000. On average, Americans who took PTO for sleep used 2 or 3 days to catch up. Yeah, and that sleep or to catch up ultimately is you need 1 day just to be able to take care of the things you need to. So you got to do your laundry, you got to clean the house, you got to run errands, you got to buy some food at the grocery store, you got to do all these different things. And you may need like 1 or 2 days to do all that. But then the third day, okay, now you can finally sleep. So they're not even using the PTO to do all 3 days of sleep. It's like they're working so much that they don't even have time to really take care of the things they need to take care of. They literally have to do PTO just to rest. I know people who have done that many times. It's like, are you going on vacation? No, I'm going to go sleep. And the thing is, they can't even go and enjoy themselves because they have to recharge their batteries. I'm going to make a value judgment of this system. If you live in a nation where people do not have time for leisure, which really is a human need, not a want, it is a necessity. If you have a system that does not allow for that, collapse is just around the corner. And so we live in a failed state. Let's continue on. Can't believe this. People are just now catching up to this in the news. It says, so this is what some of the people are saying. So it says, Rosie Osman says, burnout is so widespread that people are burning vacation days on basic recovery instead of new experiences. This shift shows the rest has become necessity, not a luxury. Look, I'm going to say this. That's bars right there. Rest is a necessity, not a luxury. Message, this is the problem. People who think, like, you know what phrase I hate the most that people will use? Oh, sleep is for the weak, or I'll sleep when I'm dead. That's the quickest way to die. Is not getting enough rest. And that's the problem I have. That's that capitalist conditioning, that conditioning that you have to wear your body down. For who? You're not doing it for you. You're doing it for some billionaire that gets to sleep all day whenever he wants to, and then he gets to go to meetings and have equoy salad and the country club, a few times a week. Like, no. Why are we working our behinds off just for them? They'd be able to have all this time in the world to golf with their golfing buddies and go on fishing trips and go on their yachts. Why are we doing this? They're well rested. They don't have bags under their eyes. They're sleeping soundly in beds that cost $15,000, $20,000 that are ergonomically shaped for their body so that they can be able to get the adequate amount of sleep. They're pretty much waking up like Hakeem from Coming to America. They probably got a 4-string quartet in their damn bedroom that wakes them up right at right when it's time to wake up. And here you are having to take PTO just to be able to get at least a few winks. Is that fair? Meanwhile, you're making all this profit, all this money for them, and they are extracting all that wealth from you. Does that sound fair to you? And please don't give me, well, that's just the way the system is. Then damn it, why don't we change it? Everybody's like, JB, why are you talking about mutual aid all the time? Because we need it. Because we deserve it. Because without us, they don't have a damn thing. Let's continue on. Thompson says people have to live two lives, professional and personal. Also have a combination of two. Many are juggling work life, which may lead to an imbalance where people will either leave the workforce altogether, which is what seems to be happening currently, or productivity output will decline while at work. Alex says it is worrying trend. America has historically been one of the worst countries when it comes to using PTO time. And given the economic uncertainty at the moment, the statistic is more than likely it will not improve anytime soon. Having to balance the personal and professional obligations can be exhausting. And as a result, more Americans have to tap into PTO time just to get adequate sleep more than using it for actual vacation. The concern, obviously, it indicates a society that's largely overworked and could actually lead to less effective work over time from those same employees. So it says, Thompson says, well, unlikely that the vacation will ever truly disappear from the American experience, but staycations may become more prominent in the coming years. It says, I quite often hear people say they need to take a vacation from their vacation when they get back home. Some people feel like their vacations are more work than the actual vacation is supposed to be, leaving them drained even further. We may see people do more of a staycation where they can actually catch up on sleep without the stress of being on the go. And trust me and believe, people who go on vacations, especially if they got kids, you need a vacation from the vacation. Try coming out here to Disney, Universal, or SeaWorld. You're standing out in the hot sun. You're standing out and it's a 90-minute wait just to get on one ride, which means you're standing out in the hot sun for 90 minutes trying to get on a ride that only lasts 4 minutes. And then by the time you get off that ride, then you got to stand in another line that might be a 60-minute wait. And so in the end of the day, by the time the fireworks go off, you may end up having only rode 6-7 rides the entire day and just walked 1,000 miles in order to be able to, have the experience at these parks while downing super high calorie foods like, funnel cake and a smoked turkey leg. But that's the issue, right? It's just people are subject to this because they are being overly exploited. That overexploitation, it pushes people to the brink where now all they can do is sleep on their days off. All they can do is really rest on their PTO just to be able to get sleep. And that's the part that a lot of people that we have to contend with. We have to move away from this thinking that, we're just lazy or we're just not applying ourselves properly. We're not using time management properly in order to be able to get the adequate amount of rest. No, it's that we're being overworked. Because you don't know how I know we're being overworked. Look at how many billions of dollars these multi-billionaires have. And if that money were to be given if the workers were to get that money instead of it going to the top, imagine how many hours less we would need to work. You see how many products we have on these shelves? Imagine how many hours less we would have to work in order to be able to survive and or thrive. We produce so much to the point where we don't even need to work that much anymore. And yet we are. And what we have to do, we have to use our paid time off in order to be able to get some rest. And here's a question that a lot of people need to ask themselves. What about the ones who don't have paid time off? What do they do? And a lot of them are the low-wage workers that we see day in and day out. We see them, and they don't get PTO because it's not part of their package. Or they could be working part-time just to the point where it's right under full-time, but they won't put them over that because they know they put you over that, oh, you're full-time, that means they have to give you PTO. So they put you just there so you don't make it, so they don't have to give you PTO. These are the tactics that they do. And so a systemic change needs to happen. A brand new foundation needs to be laid, and it has to be laid by the workers. I can't believe that I actually have to talk about this story, and I know it sounds sad and dystopian, but here's the thing. This is why it's so important for us to do the mutual aid work. Now, I know my sister Savvy Sav, she does a mutual aid workshop, and I plan on joining the next one to assist with offering tips and advice, when it comes to mutual aid. I encourage you all to join in on that workshop. I think it's going to be sometime this month on a Saturday. I don't want to give the announcement before she gives hers, but I know it's still going to be on a Saturday this month at 11. And so I highly recommend all of you to join so that we can learn how to do it, because we have to start building dual power and changing the system. And then we won't have stories like these. We won't have to use our PTO in order to be able to have vacations. In order to be able to rest and have sleep. This is why I use PTO as an acronym. For pooped, tired, and overworked, because that's exactly what we are as Americans. And we shouldn't have to be. You shouldn't have to be. And it's not a personal failing. It is a systemic failing, because it's not just you. It's not just a small group. This is millions of workers that are doing the same thing, meaning that the system is the problem. One of my favorite quotes is, if a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which the flower grows, not the flower. You're not blooming, not because you refuse to bloom. It's because the environment in which you're subject to. So you're unable to. It's not a victim mentality. It's just being honest about the system and where we live. And then, instead of staying helpless, we help ourselves by changing the system so that we can grow even further. All right, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you very much. Have you guys ever done that? Have you guys ever used PTO to just sleep? I've slept on my lunch breaks before. Wait, have I ever used PTO? Actually, I've only had PTO one time in my life. That's sad, right? I've only had PTO one time in my life. And even then, I was on dialysis, so I would still have to go to dialysis. Yep. It is dystopian. Let's check and see if we have any Rumble rants. And then we can head on out. Let's get out of here. All right. No Rumble rants. Let's continue on into the kick. Let's see if we have any. Ooh. We got people commenting on the kick side, though. All right. Sean says, I do work as a full-time donations attendant at an SA in Temecula. And Saturday are our busiest day. We refer to them as yard sale Saturday. The start of last Saturday afternoon was exhausting. Wesley says Americans are doing good to get paid for time on anymore. Mouse, good to see you, Mouse. I haven't seen you in a while. Says my coworker keeps talking about his buddy in Norway been vacation and sick leave. He gets 8 weeks paid off every year. That sounds so crazy here. Yeah, that's normal in a lot of European countries. They're able to take that much time off. I am of the opinion that you should get, let me see. I think 20% of your time should be given as paid time off. So if they're 52 weeks a year, you do the math, right? Right? I think you should get 10 and a half weeks. 20%. Yep. 52 weeks a year. All right. Then you should get 10 and a half weeks. Or let's just make it a cool 11 weeks. PTO. That's what I think. You know what I mean? So that's what, 2.5 months? Almost 3 months? Yeah, I think that's fair. Because 80% of the time you're working, so you might as well get the other 20% and pay time off. Edward says, in Europe, people work 35 hours a week. I have 2-hour lunches, unlimited sick days, and 2 months vacation. They are more rested than us. And they're also more productive, actually. OBE Direct says, exactly, Mouse. Yep. In fact, you know what? There was a documentary by Michael Moore. Oh my gosh. It's called Capitalism, A Love Story. Go watch that. Go watch Capitalism, A Love Story, get pissed off, and then come back to me and let me know how you thought, what you thought. And by the way, those are still capitalist countries. We haven't even gotten to DPRK, Cuba, China. You know, we haven't even gotten to those countries. Laos, we haven't gotten to those countries. We haven't even gotten to, you know, Venezuela's trying to get out of these sanctions that they're trying to do. But imagine if Venezuela didn't have their hands tied behind their back like the United States does to other countries. But yeah. Jay says, I use PTO to leave early or come late from sleeping in. Wow. Kat says, I had to use my PTO today. Wow. Okay. All right. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you really enjoy it. Kat says, I know my job has awesome benefits, but I'm still underpaid. Yeah, you should, you know, people deserve a living wage. Roger says, no paid time off would be people who work 1099 jobs where taxes don't automatically come out of your check like they do in a W-2 job. I think there are some people, I think there are some jobs where W-2, because I've had them, where you don't qualify for paid time off, or if you do qualify for if you do get paid time off, it's only for full-time positions, but they'll have you part-time, and then they'll have you work. Like, for instance, they'll have, like, okay, the policy will be, well, in order to be considered full-time, you have to work an average of over 35 hours a week for like 8 weeks, right? Or 16 weeks or something like that. And so what they do is that they will get you just above the average for like 3/5 of the week. 2/5 of the week, and then the other 3/5 of the week they'll put you just under, so you won't average. And so then you'll feel like you're working full time, but you won't be. And then you can't get the PTO. Like, they will do stuff like that just to keep you from getting PTO. These companies are greedy as hell. They'll do stuff like that, man. They'll get you right there, just right to that edge. Sean says 1099 should either be illegal or contain the same benefits as a W-2. Thank you very much for the the reaction, W. Dill. Bryce says, I did it all the time. Wow. My goodness. Yeah. Sean says, should be every 8 hours you earn 1 hour PTO. If you never took time off in a year, that would be 32.5 days. I think that's not enough. I know, I sound crazy. I don't think that's enough. I think, honestly, that you should get like 2 hours for every 8 hour workday. I think you should double it. I know, crazy commie over here is like, no, I believe in people actually being able to get their rest on. Get your rest on. But yeah, I know people look at me like I'm crazy. Like, what? All that time off? Yep. Kill Your Grigors. Hey, says 100% JB happened to me while contacting IT. Okay. Well, it's time for me to go. I gotta get out. Look, it was a great show today. Went a little longer than I expected, but because we had such a great conversation, it is so good. And I am so glad to have Blakeley on for their debut on this channel, just to be able to have a conversation. Guys, I will be seeing you guys, I think, later this week for the Savvy and JB show. So stay tuned for that. And what am I doing? I think there is, yeah, so this Sunday coming up, I'll be doing, I'm going to do a quick stop by doing some mutual aid this Sunday. So, and then I have my great nephew's birthday, so I won't be able to do anything much after that. But then I also have a panel, not a panel, but I have a guest that'll be on next week. So that is to be announced. But yes, it is going to be a good day. I hope you guys enjoy yourselves. And please make sure to like the stream on your way out. Did you guys enjoy the show today? I hope so. Thank you very much. And it's time for me to out of here. All right, guys. So let's get on with the get on. I wonder, did I have something funny I want to share? I thought I had something funny I wanted to share on the way out. I probably don't. I usually try to plan for these things, but I was rushing today. And you know, I hate rushing, but it's okay. But I try to find something really, you know, fun to end on, because I really do not like. I really don't like to end on a sad note. I like to, you know, I want to go off on a more positive note, but we will. Yeah, I thought I had something that I was supposed to be sharing, but I'll have one next time. All right, guys, time for me to head out. And everybody, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Smoke them if you got them, drink if you got them. If you ain't got them, then watch something funny, because joy is revolutionary. I love you guys for watching. Thank you so very much. Forehead kisses. Mwah. I hope you guys have yourself a nice day. Take care, everybody, and have a good one. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here. Forehead kisses.